Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the show four talented, exciting, and humorous individuals who are going to display their verbal ingenuity, their way with words and language, as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Janey Godley, and seated on my left, Richard Herring and Sue Perkins. Please welcome all four of them. And seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Pleasance Grand in the Pleasance Complex at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And we have a highly hyped-up Festival Fringe audience here. Yeah, they are really raring to go. So let's start the show with Sue Perkins. Yes, Sue. Oh, a very popular subject to begin with. What I love about Edinburgh. Tell us something about that. It's not funny, it's a serious subject. Something in this game, 60 seconds starting now.
What I love about Edinburgh in August is that you can drink a bottle of Buckfast in a small, darkened room watching a post-feminist interpretation of Equus and feel you are living the dream. It is a city that aspires to the most complicated greatness that life can lay in front of you. The architecture, the extraordinary cobbled streets, the stink of hops. I hope it is that said substance. I was told that as a child and believed it. It smells more like a tramp's underarm. However, I have concurred it must be something to do with the alcoholic effluent that pumps forth from the chimneys beyond. Nestling in the quaint valleys, you can see the sea. You can stare at the gorgeousness unfolding in front of you, the glittering silver of the roofs.
Paul, challenge.
We did have a lot of theirs.
And there was a correct challenge, Paul, so you get a point for that, of course. You take over the subject. 13 seconds are still available. What I love about Edinburgh, starting now.
It's the well-thought-out tram system, which everybody seems so excited about. If you talk to any taxi drivers, they are absolutely euphoric in their praise for this magnificent scheme.
Right, so at the end of that round, Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, so he's got 3 points at the end of the round. Richard Herring, will you begin the next round? Rather weird subject, this. Putting up a tent in the rain. Can you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
In 1985, I was interrailing around Europe with Geoffrey Quigley, a schoolmate of mine, and we were camping and backpacking around, and when we got to...
Sue, challenge.
It was it was a hesitation.
Yes, it was a definite there, I'm afraid.
It's harder than it looks, isn't it?
It's much harder.
Was that 45 seconds like Sue did? I think it was just about, was it?
It was 10 seconds.
10,
So there we are. 50 seconds are still available, Sue. Putting up a tent in the rain. Starting now.
Guy ropes are a problem. They slip away from you. You have to peg them in the ground. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Richard, you challenge.
I think that was a hesitation on the no there. I think there was a little no.
It was a very little slimy one, but if we went on though every little hesitation like that, I don't think there would be a show. Richard.
She did it to me. That's right.
Yours was a full-blown...
Yours was a full-blown pause.
No.
Sorry, Richard, no. I mean, you can try hard again next time, and I might be generous as you...
I will. I know nothing about camping, so hold that buzzer tightly, because it's coming, I think.
Right. So, Sue, a point to you. 45 seconds, putting up a tent in the rain, starting now.
It reminds me of a family holiday on the Gower Peninsula, where we'd been promised a static that didn't materialise. Not that it was of the fourth dimension and needed to do so, it's just that they hadn't booked it. So there we were, on tarpaulin, waiting for my dad to arrive to put the top bit on. Roof, I guess you'd call it. And there we were, the elements...
Oh, we are, Janey.
And there we were
There
twice.
we were, that was a repetition. Well, listen, Janey. And 26 seconds available, Janey. You tell us something about putting up a tent in the rain, starting now.
I remember I went to Glastonbury and it rained so hard that I thought I was going to have to put a boat up in the rain instead. I waited and waited. If you're going to do two words, do them together is the point.
Yes. That's where this game slips you up if you're not an experienced player of the game. Sorry, Janey, but Sue got in first. 17 seconds, putting up a tent in the rain, Sue, starting now.
It's best done in a hurricane. Then the fun really starts. You can see the sheeting whipping around your face as you pray for more clement atmospheric conditions, which will never come. It's British summertime. Therefore, we know the sun will never be present. And putting up a tent in the rain is the only option for those who wish to.
As I said before, whoever's speaking when the whistle blows gets an extra point, and it was Sue Perkins on this occasion. She's now one ahead of Paul and Merton, and Janey's got one. Richard's yet to score. But Janey, would you begin the next round? Looking innocent. I don't know really much about this. Would you please talk on the subject, starting now?
Looking innocent is quite difficult for me because I happen to have the most guilty, cheeky, angry, difficult face possessed on one woman from Scotland.
Richard, challenge.
So there was a repetition of difficult there.
Yes.
A bit earlier on.
Difficult, you said difficult.
Oh, did I?
Difficult.
That's quite difficult.
Quite difficult. And you repeated difficult, I'm afraid, Janey. Yes. It's all gone very quiet in the audience. I don't know what. So, Richard, you've got in with the correct challenge. 52 seconds. Looking innocent, starting now.
Looking innocent is very difficult for Janey Godley because she is the kind of person.
Sue, challenge.
It was a full-blown
I'm afraid your full-blowners do creep in,
They
Richard.
do. I'll have to watch out for
but it
that.
is the first time you've played. Only mention that for any listeners at home so they know. 47 seconds, looking innocent, with you, Sue, starting now.
I've always looked innocent. I look like I've repeated that. Let me buzz myself. So, do I get a point? I don't know. Is this a new...
You challenge yourself,
I
sir.
do. I challenge myself.
And what is your challenge?
My challenge is that a bit of both. I repeated I've and...
Yes, well, that was a correct challenge.
Thank you. Do I get a point?
You get a point for a correct challenge.
Do I get to continue? Within the rules, do I get to continue the subject?
But you can keep the subject, yes, because you've got
I'll make a better job of it.
But please don't make a habit of this because it destroys the whole structure of the game.
I won't. I can see there would be a terrible flaw if I would keep doing that.
44 seconds, Sue, looking innocent, starting now.
Janey Godley was skulking round the bins looking innocent. I didn't believe a word of it. I knew she'd been up to no good. That pixieous visage she'd got does belie a terrible evil spirit, lurking as she does.
Janey, challenge.
Lurking.
Yeah.
Yeah, lurking.
And I don't possess an evil spirit. It's just called Scottishness.
You could have applauded louder on that one. That's Janey, you have 32 seconds. Tell us something more about looking innocent, starting now.
A man came into my bar one day. He asked for a bottle of whiskey. Quickly, I gave...
Janey, challenge. Oh, you've done the same thing.
I never touched it. It's the evil spirit.
Well, your light came on, Janey.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. I must have just did it with, like...
Look,
it
we're
could be like a
not going to make a
menopausal
habit
nerve
of this,
thing.
but I can do what I did to Sue just then.
Sorry.
Say it was a correct challenge and give you a point.
Yeah.
All right. What's your challenge, by the way?
I've just got a twitchy finger.
No, say hesitation and I'll give you a point.
Hesitation.
Right, you got a point, right.
Thank you.
You keep the subject. There are 27 seconds with your no twitchy fingers around, looking innocent, starting now.
There is no way anyone can look innocent than when they're handing a gun right against someone's head, which happened to me one Saturday night in the East End of Glasgow. There was music playing, there was angry people, punk rockers, bikers, strange people, the gun...
Richard, challenge.
Repetition of people.
There are a lot of people around.
There was quite a lot of them.
Yes.
It was, to be fair, a very heightened situation. And we should probably take that into account.
Yeah. There was a gun involved.
We were carried away. We were actually transfixed with it. We wanted to hear the payoff. Maybe you'll give it to us later. But, Richard, you had a correct challenge. You have 14 seconds still available. Looking innocent, starting now.
Looking innocent is something you only do when you are guilty, because people who are innocent don't look innocent. They just carry on having a normal face. So it's a thing that someone who is suspicious and has done something wrong will tend to do in this kind of way. So...
So Richard Herring was then speaking as a whistle went and gained the extra point. And at the end of the round, Paul, Merton, Janey, Godley and Richard Herring are all equal in second place behind Sue Perkins. Paul, will you begin the next round? The subject, the pickled onion. Tell us something about that 60 seconds are available, starting now.
You most often see pickled onions in chip shop jars. They are there in the glass, full of pickle and onion. I don't know why people pickled onions. I suppose it's to preserve them. Oh, well, pickled onions. I've come all the way to talk about pickled onions.
No, it's not an easy subject.
Not an easy subject, is it?
No.
Especially if you can't say
you
it.
Slipped up there. Sue, you challenge first. The pickled onion, and there are 50 seconds, starting now.
I love a pickled onion and also a polite egg, though you don't get so many of those in fish and chip shops recently. There's something tart, sour, inviting about biting down into one of the allium family and exploding with its vinegary goodness down your chops.
Paul challenged.
Sorry, did you say a polite egg?
She did. She said a polite egg.
A polite egg. Is it a Croydon expression for a pickled egg?
Oh, fair enough.
No, I think it's deviation.
Is
don't
it?
you? We all thought you meant to say pickled egg, and it came out as polite egg, which was a lovely thought, but I think it's this deviation. Paul, you have 36 seconds. The pickled onion, starting now.
Polite eggs are like complimentary chocolates. They say, "How are you?" Dr. Joseph Pickle looked at the onion and thought to himself...
Sue challenge.
Repetition of pickle. He said pickle previously in the first...
Did I?
It's pickled is on the card. That's what you can't repeat. What
Yeah,
he
pickle.
said, Dr. Pickle.
You take it, yes, and I sense I'm losing ground.
Paul, you have the 27 seconds. The pickled onion, starting now.
Sarcastic Cornish pasties I won't mention, but the pickled onion was an extraordinary invention. The aforementioned medic that I mentioned before looks at the onion and said to himself, "How can I preserve this magnificent piece of God's bounty? I know, I shall put it into a jar, not any ordinary container. No, this will be something that he thought he was going to say jar again, didn't he? I said jar again. I couldn't resist the joke.
I know you couldn't resist the gag. Yeah, you got the laugh too, but unfortunately you paused and Sue came in. What's your challenge?
A repetition of jar.
Yes.
Right. The pickled onion, 4 seconds, Sue, starting now.
The jaunty...
Oh, challenge.
Oh, yeah, hesitation.
No, right.
That's the noise.
You got your boo. I tell you what, because you were so clever there in the audience, you played for your boo and you got your boo. Yeah. Give him a bonus point.
Yeah.
Sue, you were
These
interrupted.
violent mood swings are very difficult to cope with. Hey!
It's a bipolar sort of vibe, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Sue, you were interrupted. You get a point, of course, for an incorrect challenge, and you have the pickled onion still. 3 seconds, starting now.
The jolly walnut sits next to the egg.
So Sue Perkins is rushing ahead like that. She's still in the lead, ahead of Paul Merton, and followed by Richard Herring and Janey Godley in the third place, equal. Sue, it's your turn to begin. Would you take this interesting subject, shabby chic, and talk about it? 60 seconds, starting now.
Shabby chic is the term used by the Sunday Times Style magazine to describe wealthy people who want to look like rough sleepers. There seems to be a bizarre trend amongst the aristocratic to wear clothes look as if they've been sourced from a bin, and therefore wander about with a cravat smelling of wee, and sporting jauntily held...
So, Richard, you challenge first.
There was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation. Right. So, Richard, there are 38 seconds still available. You tell us something about shabby chic, starting now.
I don't think I can talk about shabby chic for 38 seconds, as I know...
Sue, challenge.
He's already admitted he can't talk about it for 38 seconds.
Yeah, but he can still try.
He's deviated from commitment.
No, it's an incorrect. A lovely try. We enjoyed what you said. Not quite enough reaction to get a bonus point, but I'm afraid...
Is there enough to take, little enough to take 1 point off, Sue?
No, right. We don't take points away, but you get a point for being interrupted,
Right,
and you keep the subject, shabby chic, and there are 34 seconds starting now.
I know an awful lot about being shabby, not much about being chicful, if that is a word, which it clearly is. But in any case, I'll go around wherever I told you. I told you.
Yeah.
I had 5 seconds maximum.
Yeah.
You came in first, Sue, your challenge?
Hesitation.
Yeah, hesitation, repetition, deviation. Right, 25... No, I didn't mean that harshly. that was the first time he played it. It was just an instinctive reaction. I do apologise, Richard. Right. 25 seconds, Sue, on Shabby, Chic, starting now.
Imagine Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen in a typhoon, and the end result is Shabby Chic. The faded Regency fop with clothes hanging in tattered folds around his midriff. All that's left of the former dandy, cut down in his prime by a freak...
Paul challenge.
We had dandy before.
No, he didn't say dandy.
Didn't we?
Beano
No.
it was. I think
Oh, Beano, yeah.
It was your Wally.
Right, so an incorrect challenge, Sue. Shabby Chic is still with you, and 10 seconds available starting now.
I'm not a fashionable person. I don't know why I've told 700 people staring at me. It's patently obvious. Look at what I'm wearing. I've never been called shabby chic or anything approximating to that.
So Sue Perkins was again speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point and has increased her lead. And Richard Herring would like you to begin the next round. The subject now, something we all know a bit about, free papers. I don't know how strongly you feel about them, but 60 seconds to talk about them, starting now.
The best things in life are free. Whoever said that clearly had never read The Metro. That is a joke that I have stolen from Viz magazine, which is a periodical...
Janey challenge.
Just a wee hesitation,
No,
Richard.
there was definite hesitation. It's all right.
I know, but he's my friend.
51 seconds, Janey. Free papers, starting now.
When you sit on a train and you see a new free paper, you sit there and you look at it and wonder to yourself, why did I say
Richard
sit
Starr.
It
twice?
was a mistake. I thought it was a repetition of sit, but it was sit and sitting.
I've got repetitions disease today, haven't I?
No, you didn't repeat anything, darling.
Sit, I did.
Oh, you did sit,
I
right.
did. Okay.
There's a voice in my head going, repeat, repeat, I dare you to repeat.
Richard challenged and withdrew it. That's why I thought it was wrong.
Yeah.
Right. 46 seconds for you, Richard, on free papers, starting now.
In the capital city, we have the London Light and also another paper, which is called The Paper.
Sue.
Hesitation.
Hesitation,
Hesitation
yeah.
at the, because he'd mentioned Metro.
I'm allowed to
so-
say paper, then, aren't I? Because I was
No, you can say it,
And
yes.
you also repeat it.
Yeah, no, I don't.
But
Yeah.
you repeat. Right. Don't let's have a discussion. Let's get on with it. 41 seconds available, Sue. Free papers, starting now.
Whenever I think of the free papers on the tube, I also consider the millions of trees somewhere in Brazil felled to provide us with news of Peter Andre and Jordan while we're commuting to work. Whatever happened to the idea that the odd paper could be bought at a store which particularly vends said items, instead of them being thrust upon you by ne'er-do-wells who are so terrifying in their commitment to putting these free rags into your face. I don't like them simply because there is no news in said newspapers. It's merely a chain of adverts and a picture of a kitten. Much as I love cats, they're very cute. I don't necessarily want to see them every single morning.
So Sue Perkins was again speaking as the whistle went and got that extra point and has increased her lead ahead of Paul Merton, Richard Herring and Janey Godley in that order. And Janey,
Can
will
my
you...
subject just be repetition? just I get to say the word cacophony over and over again, and then if I actually inadvertently break away from repeating, that's when I get a point.
Well, if the subject is cacophony, that's better than repetition.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, and over is also repetition.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right. So, Janey, there's a nice subject for you. Mum's the word. 60 seconds, starting now.
A man once put something into my hand, winked and said, "Mum's the word." I looked down. It was a hot sausage supper, which is normal in Glasgow, a difference from a deep-fried Mars bar. Taking this item, I ran all the way down the street, met a small monkey, passed him the item and said, "Mum's the word." He then pitched himself onto a bus, ran really fast, climbed up a mountain and took the said hot sausage.
Oh, right. Richard challenged.
It's just deviation from the real world, is that having here?
Yes, it was. But I got so far without repeating something, I was happy.
But Richard, you know, you can go into the world of fantasy
Yeah.
in this show. Some of them do quite
At the
frequently.
end of the whole thing, he passes it to his mum and he
No,
said,
wait a
"Mum."
minute, save it.
Right.
Save it, because I'm not going to allow the challenge. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Perfect.
Because I love it when we go into the world of fantasy. Right, and mum's the word still with you, Janey, and 35 seconds starting now.
Opening a purse, I saw some cash in it. I quickly put it in my pocket, winked at myself and said, "Mum's the word." At that moment, I heard a scream and a skull sandal flying towards me. It was, in fact, my mother, who could hear items of hers being opened from a far, far distance. And I did it again!
That is one of the sort of problems.
And it was a
of
good story.
It was a good story.
But it was far, far...
What happened to the monkey?
It's very sad. I don't want to tell you.
Okay.
How fast did it run?
Richard, a correct challenge. Far, definite repetition. Mum's the words with you, Richard, and you have 18 seconds starting now.
My mum was doing a crossword puzzle and said to me, the clue is mother.
Sue challenge.
Hesitation.
I'm afraid there was. So you have mum's the word, Sue, and you have 13 seconds starting now.
Mum is the word if the question is who's going to do my laundry when I've come home after 20 years smelling. And she's there to provide every single facility that one could wish. It's the best word in the world. The person who brings you into...
So Sue was again speaking as the whistle went, got an extra point, and has increased her lead at the end of the round. Paul Merton, we're back with you. Would you begin the next round? The subject is a skeleton in the cupboard. 60 seconds. You've just written it down, have you?
Yep,
Right?
yep.
A skeleton in the cupboard. 60 seconds starting now.
My favourite ride at the fun fair was the ghost train. I particularly enjoyed getting on the little thing that goes round and seeing suddenly a cupboard in front of you and a skeleton come whirring out at you. And I always used to have nightmares about this particular form of entertainment. A skeleton in a cupboard. I wonder how many of us here actually do possess such a thing at home. Is there a mass murderer sitting amongst us now who maybe had a polite egg too many once and went out on a murderous spree and started collecting his victims from here, there and everywhere? A skeleton in the cupboard, some dark secret that looms in our past, that if it was to become generally known, people would be astonished and hurt. They would say, I thought this was a proper show. I thought this was just an... That's all right. No, it's fair, it's fair.
Right?
He did say "I thought"
Yeah,
twice,
he
and
did
I'm
say
so
"I thought."
glad I have somebody that repeats as much as me.
But that was wonderful, Paul. We went for, 17 from 60? That's...
43?
43, yeah. Well,
Used to be in the old days, didn't it? Do you remember before we had horses? Do you remember? Do you remember before we had horses, Nicholas?
oh, you are wicked. Right, so Janey, you had a correct challenge. Yes, he did repeat something, and that's 17 seconds. 17 seconds on a skeleton in the cupboard, starting now.
A skeleton in the cupboard is more frightening than having a gun fall out of a cupboard, which once happened to me a long time ago. I never thought that it would happen, but it did.
So challenge.
Hesitation. But I do that with regret because a lot of guns are coming towards Jane. That's the second gun today. Out of a cupboard, from a man, in her face. She's all over that. She's a walking crime statistic.
CSI Godley.
Yeah.
Your challenge is hesitation.
Yeah.
No, she didn't hesitate.
She repeated happen.
No, but you didn't. That wasn't your first challenge.
You are a silver fox. Messing with
That she did repeat happen, but you challenged. So, I mean, your first challenge was hesitation, which was incorrect. So benefit of the doubt goes to Janey, and she still has a subject. 9 seconds, a skeleton in the cupboard, Janey, starting now.
A skeleton in the cupboard is much better than ever having a blancmange fall out of a
Paul
cupboard.
challenge.
Did we have much better before?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
You did,
But I'm
definitely.
keeping in the theme of repetition.
Oh, I see. It's going very well.
It is, I'm pleased. I'm pleased as pleased with it.
So, Paul, repetition, you have a correct challenge. 5 seconds still available. A skeleton in the cupboard, starting now.
Next to the tea caddy, there was a skull. Its eye socket there. Oh, I've said there 3 times.
You were lucky that your drawing attention to your repetition came after the whistle. So, Paul, you were actually speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point for doing so, and you have leapt forward. You're still in second place, but you've leapt. So let me give you the score as we go into the final round. Richard Herring and Janey Godley are equal in third place. They're 1 point behind Paul Merton, who's quite a few points behind Sue Perkins, who's still in the lead. And Sue, actually, it's your turn to begin again. And the subject we've got here is applying makeup. You have 60 seconds, starting now.
As the audience can see, I apply makeup only in the dark with a trowel and strimmer. That has suited me for years and provides the look I have made entirely my own. The mahogany cheeks akin to Aunt Sally in the famous children's show Wurzel Gummidge. The eyes decked with mascara as if a million spiders have lazily walked across my eyeballs. How delightful I look at night when the cold, harsh lamps illuminate the strange, stretchy face that's been daubed with makeup. Because I don't understand it. It's not a world I recognise. I know women are supposed to and everything, and be shabby and chic at the same time. Nonetheless, I require something more of my life than the application of tawdry cosmetics, often tested on poor animals. For me, it's a life of the mind. Why paint, decorate the entire time when you can read a book and find about the entire vista of human...
Well, what a way to bring the show to an end. Sue started with the subject, finished with the subject, didn't hesitate, repeat anything, or deviate. And you got only not a point for speaker as a whistle went, and your effort only gets you 1 extra point for not being interrupted. But let me... Well, actually, I could give her 5 extra points because it wouldn't make any difference to the final score. But let me give you the final situation. Richard Herring and Janey Godley. Richard hasn't played before. Janey has a bit. They finish up in 3rd place, equal, but a very, very creditable 3rd place. It was really... Paul Merton, who often wipes the floor with others and comes out on top, but he came up in a very strong 2nd place. He was only just ahead of Richard and Janey. But out in a very strong lead, as you can imagine, and with that great flourish at the end, it was Sue Perkins. So, Sue, you are the winner this week. So, it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game, Paul Merton, Janey Godley, Richard Herring, and Sue Perkins. I also thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score. She kept blowing her whistle beautifully after the 60 seconds had elapsed. We are grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're also grateful to this lovely audience here at the Festival Fringe, who've cheered us on our way in true Festival Fringe manner. So from our lovely audience and from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, thank you very much. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Yes! Whoa. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and, of course, around the world, but also to welcome to the programme this week 4 dynamic, talented, diverse personalities who are going to show their skill with words and language as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Charles Collingwood, and seated on my left, Jenny Eclair and Stephen Fry. And will you please welcome all 4 of them? Seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me with the score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House. And we're beginning the show this week with Stephen Fry. Stephen, here's a subject for you, a perk of my job. Tell us something about that. Subject in this game, starting now.
Well, a perk of my job that I'm happy to be able to expand on now and share with an audience is that I have reached a level of celebrity which means I am now a member of the Grand Lizard Council, which actually runs the world. Only David Icke knows about this. Many politicians, princes,
And
dukes...
Paula's challenge.
I didn't see you at the last meeting. You mentioned it, didn't you, Nicholas? Do you remember mentioning it?
I know, I remember. Yes. Because I was there before you, wasn't I?
Yes, you were.
Yes.
You were doing the catering.
And I remember how much you ate as well.
Exactly. This is true.
Paul, you have the subject as well as a point, of course. 43 seconds, a perk of my job, starting now.
I used to think that a perk of my job when I was working on a show called Room 10 Ditto, that I would meet people that I've always wanted to be associated with. Spike Milligan came on the very first series that I did, and I used to listen with...
Stephen challenge.
Yeah, well, he started with I always used to, and
That's
then he
right.
said I used to just now.
You used to, so you repeated used to, yes.
Hang
A moment ago you were shouting for him, and now you're groaning.
Aren't they fickle? They're ever so
They're
fickle.
so fickle. Right, they can turn. The correct challenge, Stephen.
This is not put on for your benefit, you know.
So, 29 seconds, Stephen. Here, a correct challenge. You get a point for that, of course. A perk of my job, starting now.
A perk of my job, very seriously, ladies and gentlemen, is that many years after first striving to make it in this business we called show, I was first allowed...
Jenny challenge.
2 firsts.
Yes?
Oh, very good. Very good. Absolutely right.
So, Jenny, well listened. A correct challenge. A point to you. 20 seconds are still available. A perk of my job, starting now.
A perk of my job is that I haven't really got one. Hurrah! I'm unemployed, can do what I like, go to yoga class. Why don't I, instead of just standing in front of the fridge shoveling food into my
Charles
face?
challenge.
Well, that was a hesitation. She was really fighting to speak, weren't
I
you?
was choking Charles.
Choking.
But because I'm professional,
Charles, I am
was
a bit
trying
close.
to keep going.
I am in the layout of the show closer than you are to her, and she was choking a bit, but she was keeping going and getting the words out.
But I was feeling sorry for her. I mean, she was choking, for God's sake, Nicholas.
But she wasn't hesitating.
No, but she was
Charles.
dying, old darling.
She was
Much more serious than playing
Charles,
a game.
that's
She was
another
about to
perk
fade
of my
out.
job. I'm used to dying.
Do I get it now?
No, you don't, Charles. I'm sorry.
Did I get a bonus for simply kind?
No.
You can't get a bonus for suggesting that somebody else is dying. I mean, that's having certain limits.
So, Jenny, an incorrect challenge. 10 seconds still available. A perk of my job, starting now.
A great perk of my job is working with all these marvellous people who I don't have to see again tomorrow. Because, you know, it's just a once-in-a-blue-moony kind of thing. I wouldn't want to see these old ladies.
So, Jenny Eclair was speaking as the whistle went, and whoever does that in this game gets a bonus point, and it was Jenny, of course, and she's now in the lead at the end of that round. Yes, right. She's one ahead of Paul Merton and 2 ahead of Stephen Fry.
Say that again. Who am I ahead of again?
No. You're in the lead, my darling.
Ahead of Stephen and Paul.
That's right, yes.
I don't need to do anything else in the show.
Jenny, will you begin the next round? Oh, do you know anything about this? Shopping online. 60 seconds starting now.
I don't mind shopping online. I've bought holidays to locations such as Africa, America, Germany, France, Holland, Tunisia, Scandinavia, also... Oh, it was such a good idea!
Right, Stephen, you challenged.
Well, there was a hesitation.
There was a
I felt.
hesitation, yes.
It was a good list.
Yes, good.
Is it true?
No, do you know what? No.
Oh.
The thing about listing I've discovered in this game is that there comes a point when you cannot go on listing. You have to change and go into some more...
Clement was the master there. He could
was
list
a master.
forever, couldn't he?
No, he always very clever.
He did
Knew he was
suddenly
coming to
stop,
the end of
yes.
his list and go into something else.
That's what I was going to do.
Right, so 45 seconds for you, Stephen, on shopping online, starting now.
Ocado is one of the rather weird names of an online shopping service. There are many others, of course. Amazon is well known, far too celebrated for me to expand on it much further. However, Play.com is another site.
Jenny challenge.
Well, it was however, he said.
It is a real word.
It's deviation from however.
Whomever and however, they're both poetical uses of the word. I promise you, look into the dictionary. Whomever, however. I wouldn't have said it otherwise. It's a nice... I've always said it. My favourite.
Yeah, but I'm at a disadvantage, having not been educated at all.
Ah. Well, I'm sorry. I had literally no idea. However, howsomever, in fact.
I'm hoping you might catch some of my thickness by osmosis and halfway through the show crack up completely.
No, I think...
How are you speaking English? It's sheer guesswork, every word.
You're doing jolly well in that case.
You're doing all right, actually.
Getting really hot.
So, I'm sorry, Jenny.
However.
Yes, an incorrect challenge. And 31 seconds, Stephen, shopping online, starting now.
Terribly tempting business, really, isn't it? Because it's so easy simply to tick and click and order that checkout. It's so... Oh,
Jenny, you challenged.
That was a terrible hesitation.
Awful.
It wasn't
However...
Jenny, tell us, we're back with you, Jenny. Tell us more about shopping online. 22 seconds, starting now.
It's great because you can pretend to be at work and actually you're looking at the bedding in the White Company thinking, I might get that. Oh, look, Mr. Joseph's is coming up. Let's click back to my secretarial work. Can you tell I've never actually worked in an office in my life? Making this up, but sometimes, you know, when you con yourself and you try to write a book.
So Jenny Eclair was again speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and she's maintaining her lead. 1 ahead of Stephen, 2 ahead of Paul Merton, 5 ahead of Charles Collingwood, and there we are.
It's giving me asthma. I'm so excited by the prospect of having won 2 rounds. I'm actually having respiratory problems. Charles, you might be...
You weren't well, you see. I was trying to help you, and I could have had the subject then. I had a lot to say about shopping online, but I'm not going to.
That's the toughness of the game. And who's going to begin? Paul Merton.
Yes.
Will you begin the next round?
Yes.
The subject is Granny's cooking. Granny's cooking. 60 seconds, starting now.
I knew neither my paternal grandmother or my maternal, so I don't really know anything about the cooking. I mean, one died in about 1951, and the other one was about 1932.
Charles, you got in there.
Yeah, because you stopped.
That is
Because he
hesitation.
doesn't care about the subject. You can tell, can't
No, I don't care.
Doesn't want to talk about
I care passionately, but I just...
I want to talk about Granny's cooking for about 54 seconds. Is that right?
You're in there,
And
Charles.
I'm ready.
54 seconds. Granny's cooking, starting now.
My grandmother had spent a long time in India. When she came back to England, we always had curry. Her flat smelt so much of spices and gorgeous textured rices and chutney and little spoonfuls of yum-yum, which I would put on the side. Isn't yum-yum one word?
It may be hyphenated, but I think in just a minute it is a repetition.
No,
wonder I'm
harsh
passionate.
news, isn't it? Harsh news.
I mean, some spell it with a hyphen, some don't.
Yeah.
So, Jenny, do you challenge first? You have the benefit of the doubt. You have Granny's
Come on,
cooking.
Jenny, good luck.
37 seconds, starting now.
Had one granny who could cook, the other was rubbish. Cooking Nana, right, she was a meat and potato pie queen. Remember when my granddad died at the funeral, she was lashing out the lamb and spud and red cabbage.
Charles, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Yeah,
I
because
think
I
that
was
was
like, I was getting emotional about the red cabbage and meat and potato
You're
pie.
lucky to have such precious memories.
Charles. Granny's cooking, 24 seconds, starting now.
I wish Paul had been my brother and the same age as me because we could have shared a granny and he would have enjoyed the food that my granny was cooking.
Paul challenge.
Don't you patronise me with your offers of half a granny.
Well, you've had 2
Oh,
grannies.
poor boy, never had a granny's life. Yeah, have half of mine.
What's your challenge within the rules of just a minute, Paul?
Within the rules of just a minute, none. We're in the bounds of human decency, plenty.
I was offering so much, and he threw
Which
it
half
back
am I
at
going
me.
to get?
You're going to get You're going to get her cooking. You poor thin little thing. I've done sympathy for Paul now. Let's move on.
Paul, we enjoyed your interruption.
Yes.
So you get a bonus point for that. Charles, it was an incorrect challenge, so you have a point for that. You have Granny's cooking still. 14 seconds starting now.
Granny's cooking is the finest we can fetch. Because when...
Paul Charles.
What do you mean, fetch? I mean, I didn't have a grandmother. We never had to fetch her cooking. We couldn't fetch her, never mind the cooking. What's all this fetching the cooking business?
However, Charles might have gone to Granny's flat and fetched a basket of cooked curries to bring back to...
Absolutely right.
I'm sorry, let's not take this any further. We've gone far enough on that. I mean...
I'm fetching up here.
Right, Paul, the correct challenge. 10 seconds. Granny's cooking, starting now.
Family law tells us that it was magnificent food. She would wander in from the kitchen with a couple of dumplings in her hand and frozen peas would play...
So, Paul Merton speaking as whistle when gained that extra point. It's very even between them all. Charles has got 4, Stephen's got 5, Paul's got 6, and Jenny's got 7. Stephen, I'm sure this is something around your area of knowledge and information. Blogging. It's your turn to begin, so would you tell us something about blogging in this game starting now?
Well, the word blog is a contraction of weblog, and blogging really is a kind of logging. It's basically a form of diarising or journal keeping, but online, on the web, if you prefer. It was coined about 7 years ago. I don't know why my voice did that, and has taken on an enormous popularity.
Paul challenge.
Has Stephen been channeled by the ghost of Elvis Presley? What's happened there?
Well, if he really wants to,
What's going on? Are we having is it just a séance? What's going on?
I should explain to our listeners that peculiar laugh is coming from Stephen, actually.
It could be coming from Glenn Miller, we don't know.
What comes it's anyway, I keep going. It's to be odd. I'm sorry. When I was a boy, I used to come and watch Kenneth Williams doing this, you know.
He would go into different voices.
And he used to go, and somehow I just absorb it, listening over the years of suddenly having, I don't know, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
It didn't. It sounded more like Kenneth Williams than Elvis Presley, actually. Anyway, Paul, we love the interruption, so Paul gets a bonus point. Stephen wasn't deviating or doing anything strange. We were doing a lot of strange things, but he was still keeping the subject. Blogging, back with you, Stephen, and 41 seconds starting now.
Many of you may have heard, very fortunate if you haven't, of the micro-blogging service Twitter, which has attained some sort of notoriety of late, tweeting or the sending of miniature blog-style objects, 140 characters.
Challenge.
Well, it's Alec Guinness now. I mean... Is he auditioning for somebody tonight? It's Trevor Nunn in the third row.
It is not Alec Guinness. If it were Alec Guinness, you would know about it.
But sometimes the Alec Guinness impression can be heard on more than one side of the show.
Anybody else want to do an impersonation?
Yeah, go on, do your Prince Albert.
Well, Victoria, I do think it's time that we went to bed. I think...
He was in the room.
Well,
He was in the room with us.
Exactly.
I could even see the ring glinting.
Yeah.
But did you see the glint? Victoria's eye, oh, dear It's amazing how a simple show like this can get us all hysterical.
Yeah.
But it is enjoyable. But, Paul, what was your challenge when you did it?
I don't know, but I think it wasn't a legitimate one. I don't think.
Well, that's
Alec Guinness, I think.
Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness, yes.
Yeah,
But, it was a good luck. Give him another bonus point. No, it was worthy of a bonus point. But you get a point because you were interrupted.
Oh, right, fair
you still have blogging. You have 28 seconds starting now.
I feel rather sorry for many of the BBC foreign correspondents and journalists.
Paul
The
Challenge.
repetition of B.
Yes,
Oh.
BBC, yes.
Say, book one. What was I thinking of? Carry on. Sorry.
No, but if you were really in the shoes or the
I know
mentally...
double BC or
I mean,
whatever.
I mean, when Kenneth Williams was challenged on that, he went catatonic. Did he? Absolutely went off the wall, you know. BBC, no, this is no, you can't do that. This is the way you go. You can't have the BBC.
It was so bad it turned him stage Jewish.
Unbelievable.
Right. Paul, the correct challenge.
Opportunity not
The auditions are over.
Yep.
25
What was the subject? Blogging. That was a long time ago.
Don't I always give you the subject before you start.
Oh, do you?
Yes. But everybody else was telling you. It's blogging, and there are 25 seconds starting now.
As Stephen has mentioned, this is now a very popular pastime throughout the world. I haven't really caught up with it myself, but I do have a computer at home, and sometimes when I turn it on, I think, well, you know, I might have a look at the blogging community, see what they're up to these days. But of course, I spend most of my time running the Church of England. Who buzzed? Who buzzed?
You buzzed first, Stephen. What's your time?
Time. He repeated time.
Yes, you had another time.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
We all
that's right, yes.
All buzzed for time.
Yes, right. And Stephen, you've got him with 6 seconds to go on blogging starting now.
I suppose, like many things in the popular way, blogging will one day become unpopular.
Jenny challenged.
He said popular before. I'm not sure whether in the rules of the games, because obviously I'm just a novice.
No, it's an unpopular then. We'll become unpopular.
Sorry, talking in such a stupid voice. I couldn't actually hear.
He is now...
Oh, you're probably right.
He is deviating from the voice he was using before, isn't he?
He is, that's true.
It was only that I thought he'd said popular twice.
Jenny, I'm trying to help you there.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's exactly what he was doing.
Right, Jenny, 3 seconds from you on blogging starting now.
Can't be doing with blogging, it bores.
So Jenny Eclair was again speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. She's equal in the lead now with Paul Merton, and they're both together, one ahead of Stephen Fry, and they're a few more ahead of Charles Collingwood. But Charles begins the next round. Charles, the subject is making an impression. You've tried that very hard. Very apt, the subject should come up now. But Charles, 60 seconds starting now.
I went to the doctor. I said, I broke my arm in 3 places. He said, don't go to those destinations. Now, there was me making an impression. And I'm thrilled to get a round of applause, because it obviously means you know who I was taking off. I do think that it's important in life, and I'm now talking to the younger members of the audience, that when you first go for an interview, you must try and make an impression. And clean, polished shoes are the best possible thing that you can have. Because...
Paul Challenge.
That's rather rude to interrupt, because I was instructed. It was a serious moment.
I don't know, mate, I suppose I am being pedantic, but clean, polished shoes are the best things you can have.
Pants. You've got to have pants, man.
The address of where the interview is.
This is nonsense. Pants. How on earth is the man giving you a job going to see whether you've got pants on? But shoes,
if you're wearing
yes.
them on your head, that's not an impression.
Yeah, well, you're just being silly
certainly,
now. So I don't
to be fair, clean polished shoes will make an impression.
Yeah.
But they won't make the best impression.
No.
But it says making an impression, not the best impression. Making an impression.
Ah, very good, very well done.
So you have the benefit of the doubt. You have another point.
And I have another point.
And you have the subject. And you have 28 seconds making an impression.
Trying to win your bus fare.
Will you not? How dare you interrupt? I'm about to start.
You haven't started yet.
My bus fare. Right.
Stephen Challenge.
Repetition of bus.
He didn't say starting now.
I'm sorry, Stephen. There's a little confab going. He hasn't actually started yet.
Why would he need his bus fare? Hasn't he got a bus pass?
Oh,
Saucer of milk.
how can we... You're taking on some of the acid that we get from the fellows.
That made me laugh.
Well, that's a start, isn't it?
And right, there we are. Now, let's get back to just a minute.
Yeah.
And, Charles, it was an incorrect challenge.
Yeah.
because you have another point for that. 28 seconds, making an impression, starting now.
One of the things I've really loved doing is going to the seaside, and when the tide goes out and the sand is warm and hard, by putting your foot prently down,
Stephen Shabby.
There really isn't such a word as prently, I'm sure.
There is a lot of words called prently, pruntly, and pruntly, and you know that.
If only, it's a nice thought.
And you know that.
No
Old Dorset words.
Old Dorset. Well, prently. I went to school in Dorset, and we talked about "I'll be there prently."
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a sweet
It's your school motto, wasn't it? Your school motto.
Yes.
Stephen, you have a correct
All right,
challenge. And 13 seconds on making an impression, starting now.
A thing dentists or orthodontal people often do is take a medium of some sort, a plaster of Paris, before it is set, and place a pair of gnashes in it in order to make an impression for making all kinds of different things.
Well, we've had so much fun in this particular edition of Just a Minute. We haven't got through many, many subjects. And we now have time for only one more. Oh, you are lovely. I'm sure you'd like to know the situation as we move into the final round. Charles Collingwood, in spite of all his passion, is trailing a little in fourth place. Janey Eclair, who was in the lead, alongside Paul Merton up to now, has now lost it by 1 point to Stephen Fry. But it is Jenny's turn to begin. Somebody in the audience said something which we didn't catch.
Someone said, "Go, Jenny! Go, Jenny!"
Right.
And I really
well,
appreciate
go,
it.
Jenny.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I don't know what this means, Jenny, but I'm sure you can go on it. 3 things you should know about salt. 60 seconds starting now.
I am the face of less salt, in actual fact. The government hired me to do a campaign encouraging the folk of the land to eat less of that chemical compound, sodium chloride.
Less, I'm afraid.
Less, 2 lesses.
Yeah.
Well, you should eat less
Face
salt.
of less salt.
That's what I was paid to do, tell people to eat less salt.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Right. Stephen, you have a correct challenge. 50 seconds. You tell us something about 3 things you should know about salt, starting now.
3 things you should know about salt. It's called sodium chloride, or the kind we eat is at least. Also often...
Charles,
There was a hesitation there.
There was a little
there was.
hesitation, a little hesitation. So,
Unquestionably.
Charles, you're in on this last subject. 43 seconds. 3 things you should know about salt, starting now.
Can you think of anything harder than to talk about salt and 3 things you know about it?
Paul, challenge.
4 things you know about salt.
Yeah, so that was good. You get a bonus point for that remark. So, Charles, you have another point. And you have the subject, and 38 seconds starting now.
When you cry and your tears run down your face into your mouth, you can taste salt. Salt in a cellar is an extraordinary place to keep it.
Paul, challenge.
I just feel we're not going to get to 3 things. I just...
Give me a chance.
Oh, you give it. No, sorry. I've challenged far too prematurely. I'm sure you can taste it when you cry. You keep it in cellars. The 3rd thing is going to knock us all out. I bet it involves the word chips.
Have you got a challenge?
I haven't, sadly, no. Have you?
Well, no, I haven't. Yes. But it's not my job to challenge.
Is it not?
No, it's up to me to make the decisions.
Is it?
After all these years, have you not worked that one out yet?
No.
Right, anyway, but we did enjoy what you said again.
Yeah.
So give him that bonus point. More important. 26 seconds. Charles, you got a point for being interrupted. 26 seconds. 3 things you should know about salt, starting now.
3rd thing I'd like to tell you about is this old sailor boy in Cornwall who was a real old salt. He was a man of...
Stephen, challenge.
Old sailor boy who was an old salt. It's too early.
Very good. Very good, Stephen.
I do know.
Very good.
So, Stephen, you got in on this subject. 19 seconds still available. 3 things you should know about salt, starting now.
Something I'm happy to share with you about salt is that our word salary derives from the Latin for salt. Romans were paid in that commodity. It was considered very valuable, and for that reason, we have ascribed the usage of that nomenclature to our weekly or monthly stipend.
So Stephen Fry was speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point for doing so. Let me give you the final result. Why, gosh, what an even contest. And what a yo-yoing contest. That's repetition, I know, but please forgive me. Because Janey, who was leading throughout, lost the lead in that last round. When she's only 1 point behind Charles, who with all his passion and salt in the last round there, came forward and finished up in third place. He was 1 point behind Paul Merton, who's now in second place, and he's 1 point behind Stephen Fry, who is the winner this week. A very fair and evenly balanced contest, only 1 point separating them all, 9, 10, 11, 12, like that. But as I often say, the points are not so important as the... Darling, I was going to finish by saying it's the contribution. Your contribution was wonderful. Your position was secondary.
Thank you.
Your contribution. So, what remains me to say, to thank our four intrepid players of this game, Paul Merton, Charles Collingwood, Janey, Eclair and Stephen Fry. I also thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score and blown her whistle when the 60 seconds was up. We're grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre in Broadcasting House for cheering us on our way and joining in the fun which we enjoy as much as they do. So from our lovely audience and from me, Nicholas Parsons, and our lovely panel, goodbye, and remember, tune in the next time we play Just a Minute.
Well, no jam tomorrow, I'm afraid, but plenty more next week. Tomorrow at the same time, Steve Punt and Hugh Dennis are back with The Nye Show.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you, hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners in this country and around the world, but also to welcome to the show four talented, exciting, charismatic personalities who this week are going to play Just a Minute. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Gyles Brandeth, and seated on my left, Suki Webster and Graham Norton. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I'm going to give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me keep the score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House, in the centre of London, West 1. And we're going to begin the show with Paul Merton. Paul, the long arm of the law. 60 seconds as usual, Paul, starting now.
Dr. Crippen may well have been innocent. The body they found underneath his house, which for many years they supposed to be that of his wife, has turned out to be somebody else altogether. Recent advances in DNA may actually prove that the gentleman I mentioned earlier was completely not guilty. He was, of course, caught by an invention by Marconi called the radio. He was doing a disc jockey turn on Radio 1 and got stirred by the authorities as he's been played tribute.
Graham, you've challenged.
Repetition of radio.
Oh, yes.
Yes, on radio, yes. Graham Norton, you had a correct challenge, so you get a point for that, and you have 34 seconds, the long arm of the law, starting now.
I have only encountered the long arm of the law once. It was many years ago. I was walking home early in the morning in Cork, in Ireland. And the bakery had long trays of warm bread out in the street. Well, the hunger came upon us walking home. Oh, I said walking home.
Gyles, you challenged.
A repetition of walking.
Right. So, Gyles, you have a point for a correct challenge. 13 seconds available. The long arm of the law starting now.
I had the honour of meeting P.C. George Dixon of Dock Green some years ago.
Paul, challenge.
Impossible. He was a fictional character.
No.
What, you mean you can meet the fictional character?
Yes. Yes.
All right, OK.
Shall we get on?
Yes, you can get on. You've got 9 seconds. And another point to you, the long arm of the law, Gyles, starting now.
Once upon a time, within the Metropolitan Constabulary, there were rules...
Paul challenged.
Sorry, that was deviation from constabulary. What was that? What sort of word was that?
Oh, we now mock people with speech impediments, do we?
I never knew you had a speech impediment, do you?
No, I
just
don't.
thought you were posh.
He's got incredibly...
I think he was rich and talked like that.
Though he was speaking fast, he did convey the fact he was trying to say constabulary.
Oh, okay, I got that he was trying to say it, obviously. I think we just disagree on his amount of success.
Paul, I think what we'll do is we have enjoyed your interruptions.
Doesn't matter to me, because later on I'm going down the pub with Winnie the Pooh and Sherlock Holmes.
Giles, 6 seconds. The long arm of the law starting now.
The point is that the traditional copper was obliged to be over 6 foot tall and to have extremely long...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Giles Brandeth, so I don't need really to remind you that at the end of the round, he has more points than anybody else. Giles, we'd like you to begin the next round. The Eiffel Tower. Will you tell us something about that edifice in this game, starting now?
I'd be pleased to talk about the Eiffel Tower, and I'm amused that you should give me this subject, Nicholas, because I've just, in fact, returned from Paris, where the Eiffel Tower exists as the tallest building in that great city, erected in 1889.
Graham challenged.
Isn't the Tower Montparnasse that thing?
No! No!
Isn't that taller?
No!
Lady down here, see the really clever lady? The really, really smart, clever lady? Perk.
Giles, can you justify?
I can certainly justify that the tower, the Eiffel Tower, is indeed the tallest building in Paris, the tallest erected edifice. There are 4 other taller buildings in France. None of them are within the city of Paris.
What about this Montparnasse?
I was there this afternoon, madam.
They've built another extension since you were there.
There is no question that the Eiffel Tower is the tallest edifice in Paris. Right. Can we move on? Can we sweep on?
Has anyone got a taser?
Where is the Montparnasse building?
It's that big tower south of the river. Isn't that taller than that?
No.
It must be taller than that. It's a skyscraper.
No.
Excuse me. Can we just listen to that accent? That is a French person.
Right. May I ask you, are you from Paris?
No, but I've lived there for 4 years, so...
40 years or 4 years? 40
Many years.
We will go with the erudite lady in the front row.
Yeah.
What?
Who's lived for 40 years in Paris.
See? Oh, please, Nicholas, this is outrageous. I mean...
Someone at the back has just Googled it. You know it's true.
I've decided it is on, Giles, and I think you've had a good enough innings on this already, and you've expressed yourself, and I think you should calm down now for a bit. Otherwise, we'll have to bring the medics in. So, Graham, you had a correct challenge.
Oh.
And you have the Eiffel...
I'll share the cash prize with you.
The Eiffel Tower, Graham, is with you. 49 seconds starting now.
The Eiffel Tower is a quaint little structure in Paris.
Deviation. It is not a little structure. It is apparently, according to you, Nicholas, the second tallest edifice in Paris.
Yes, but if you're Graham Norton and you speak with affection about something, you can describe it as a little charming little place. I think he was being endearing about it, and so I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Graham, and you continue with the Eiffel Tower with 45 seconds starting now.
And I imagine it'll be lovely when it's finished. I think...
Charles.
It was finished on September the 22nd, 1889.
Giles, on this occasion, yes, you have the benefit of the doubt. Yes, it was finished. So you have the Eiffel Towers back with you. 41 seconds starting now.
It is the creation of the great Gustave Eiffel, who originally designed it for...
Paul challenge.
No, that's definitely wrong. So they copied it from the one in Blackpool, didn't they? So deviation, it was nothing to do with Gustave Eiffel.
No.
Fine, somebody back me up on this.
They're definitely winding you up now, Charles. An incorrect challenge. Giles, you have another point. 38 seconds. The Eiffel Tower starting now.
The French author Guy de Maupassant took lunch there every day because he said it was the only place in the City of Light from which he could not see the hideous edifice.
He said city earlier.
You had the city earlier. Well done.
Repetition.
Yes. Well listened. first-time player of the game is spotting these things well. 30 seconds are available. Suki, will you tell us something about the Eiffel Tower starting now?
The Eiffel Tower stands in that most romantic city of Paris. Many young lovers have met beneath the tower for clandestine trysts, kissing each other and whispering sweet nothings like, "Court, you're a little darling, aren't you?" As they climb to the top of the tower, breathless, they look out over that gorgeous capital of France. They are so enamoured with each other and of the place that they fall into each other's...
So Suki Webster was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and she's now equal in second place with Graham Norton. Out in the lead is Gyles, 2 points ahead, and Paul is training them all a little. Suki, we'd like you to begin the next round. It's a very good subject, a fun guy. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game starting now?
My favourite kind of fun guy is the one that you can whap into a pan and fry up with your eggs and bacon in the morning. And I don't mean a mushroom, I mean a man that does that has got to be good for a laugh. Today I'm surrounded by 4 fun guys. Paul Merton, that dry wit and gorgeous godlike creature. Next to him...
Who buzzed then? Who buzzed then?
Gyles, you
That's what I pay
challenged.
my licence fee for. Who buzzed then?
Gyles, you challenged.
Yes, I challenge.
Why?
Deviation.
He is a fun guy.
Listen, you may have a
Did
different...
you hear the description? Would you like it replayed to you?
Yes.
You may have a different opinion of Paul Merton, but that is the image that Suki Webster has, and she's entitled to her image of Paul Merton.
Yeah, the deviation is her. Poor darling girl, she's obviously a deviant if this is her... If Paul is her idea of a sort of godlike creature, she's got problems. And I was just trying to spare her and her family from this sort of public humiliation. It's sort of ghastly.
I think you're digging yourself a kind of grave here, actually. Because I'm never going to agree with you.
No, well, that's all right.
Suki, no, you're allowed to have your own opinion of all these 4 people on the panel. I'm interested to know what you think of the other 3.
Yes.
Wait till I get... So, an incorrect challenge, a point to you, Suki, and there are 37 seconds starting now.
Next to him, Gyles Brandeth. He's posh, he's angry, and he's gorgeous.
Paul
this
challenge.
is good. This is good.
Well, you're just devaluing the word now, aren't you? I mean, if Gyles Brandeth is gorgeous, then...
No, I mean, Paul, if she can have that opinion of you, she can...
You're just waiting to hear what she says about you, aren't you?
Of course I am. Can't wait for it. So, Suki, another incorrect challenge. You have 29 seconds, a fun guy starting now.
On my left, that funster, that naughty, potty-mouthed but lovable Graham Norton. What a fun guy he is. But the best...
Graham, wait, she's just getting to me.
No gorgeous. Nothing.
Gorgeous.
Over there, a wall of beauty. Here, some swearing giggly man. I tanned for this.
You do look gorgeous.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to give Graham a bonus point for his interjection there and what he said, because it was so enjoyable. But, Suki, I gave it against the others, and therefore I still have to give it with you on your descriptions and say you have 20 seconds still.
All poised.
A fun guy starting now.
The most fun.
Yeah, Paul,
Hesitation.
no, not at all. She was just about to get into a flow. She was it was all expectancy everywhere. No. Right, another incorrect challenge, another point to you, Suki, and another 18 seconds, a fun guy starting now.
Last but not least, Nicholas Parsons. What a fun guy he is. Only last week we were at a party when he stripped naked, had nipples...
Stripped naked he was, stripped naked.
I don't know why I gave you the benefit of the doubt for the last 2 minutes. Gyles, why have you challenged?
Well, I mean, for a variety of reasons. One, to protect your reputation. 2, because the erotic charge that there had been in the studio earlier on suddenly evaporated. But principally, if I'm to be honest, because of a repetition of the word last. Last but not least, and then afterwards, last week, I was at a party.
I guess that sound.
So I have to give it to Gyles. A point to you. A fun guy is with you. 8 seconds starting now.
Guy Fawkes was one of the most amusing of all people of the 17th century. He loved a bonfire, fireworks, all sorts of excitement.
Wait a minute. No, Paul, challenge before the whistle.
No, I don't think he loved a bonfire because they really didn't only became popular once he was killed.
No, he was the 17th person to be killed that November by fire.
But
that doesn't prove he loved a bonfire and fireworks. He loves a bonfire and fireworks. The reason why we have fireworks is because of Guy Fawkes.
How do you know?
Because I built the Eiffel Tower.
Honestly, no, what Paul said is absolutely correct.
Yes.
I mean, he didn't decide to blow up the Houses of Parliament because he enjoyed a bonfire. It's ridiculous. We now have bonfires celebrating his activities. So, no, to the benefit of the doubt goes to Paul. He has a half a second on a fun guy starting now.
Dressed up!
So, at the end of that round, Paul Merton was speaking to whistle when gained that extra point. He's still in 4th place, and then he's Graham, and now Suki Webster's taken the lead. Graham, will you begin the next round? Oh, a lovely subject. The Plinth in Trafalgar Square. Will you tell us something about that famous empty plinth? 60 seconds starting now.
The Plinth in Trafalgar Square is now being put to marvellous use. A series of street performers and artists can perform there without being peed on by dogs. I think that's a lovely thing to do. They're all the time, though, when you go by in the middle of the night. Last evening, there was a woman counting beads on a rope at about 11:30. Doesn't she have a television? Why not go home and watch that? It seemed odd to me. There are other plinths in Trafalgar Square, of course. Why was that one left empty? It can't have been for this, surely. This wasn't God's plan.
Giles' challenge.
Repetition of this.
Oh, yes. Thank God for that.
So, Giles, you've gone in first. 24 seconds available. The Plinth in Trafalgar Square, starting now.
In younger and happier days, when I was a member of Her Majesty's government, I had a lowly employment at the Department of Culture and National Heritage, where the offices are in Trafalgar Square. And I traipsed across the square every day and saw... square is on the card.
I'm an idiot. I stab myself. I fall on my pen.
That would look good on the plinth.
Yes, you can repeat the subject on the card, or any word in the subject on the card, and that's what Graham realised too late, but he did interrupt Giles, so he has another point, and he has the Plinth in Trafalgar Square. 11 seconds, Giles, starting now.
It was I who saw that this plinth was deserted and suggested to the then minister that perhaps we could fill it with somebody interesting, like Margaret Thatcher in her tank, or indeed the Queen Mother under the table.
So Giles Brandeth was then speaking again as a whistle when gained that extra point, and he's increased his lead at the end of the round. Paul, we're back with you. Will you begin the next round? My favourite diet. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
My girlfriend's on a seafood diet. She sees food and she diets. That doesn't make any sense.
Suki challenge.
It didn't make sense.
Didn't make sense.
Hesitation.
Hesitation as well.
Definitely.
He paused after it didn't make sense.
Well, it wasn't that. He didn't get a laugh. That's why he paused. Suki, my favourite diet is with you. 56 seconds available, starting now.
My favourite diet is not to diet. I don't see the point in it. I think people...
Graham challenge.
Yeah, deviation, because everyone has a diet. You have to eat something.
No, I think of the strict interpretation of the word diet, it means that you are restricting certain foods.
That's a calorie-controlled diet. Everyone has a diet.
I think the audience are endorsing what you're saying. So I give you the benefit of the doubt, Graham, and tell me something about my favourite diet. 50 seconds, starting now.
I don't have one.
Giles, you came in first.
Yes, all his diets are consequently his favourite diet.
So what's your challenge?
That is deviation.
No.
According to what he said you've accepted that everybody has a diet. He has to have All his diets are consequently at an equal level. They're all his favourite diet or his least favourite. We're now into semantic byplay, but why not?
I'd go with the fact that I stopped speaking. I thought that was
That's the one I was going for.
No.
I was going for... But the woman in the front row from Paris who's lived before was shaking her head at me, so I was confused.
Gyles, you can't...
Let's hear some more from him, I agree. You spent a lot on the tan.
Shut up, will you? We don't have secondary challenges.
Of course not.
He did hesitate.
Exactly.
But he was sufficiently logical within the rules of Just a Minute not to have your first challenge.
You're quite right.
The looks on my face, I wish they could be conveyed, but it's radio. But there we are. 48 seconds with you, Graham. My favourite diet starting now.
My favourite diet is chips. I don't know. Perhaps with ketchup. That's a deviation or a variety. I really thought
Paul challenge.
He clearly doesn't want the subject.
No, but I'm so... No, I was just so confused because I thought it was Gyles now. Yeah. So when you said Graham, I was like, what?
Oh, you must be always ready for the unexpected.
I know. Well, that was very unexpected.
Paul, a correct challenge. You have 40 seconds. My favourite diet, starting now.
Undoubtedly, my favourite diet is the Mediterranean one. I drink 5 glasses of that particular sea every day. And you know, my skin flushes like a young blossoming virgin as she is led away from the police inquiry.
Suki challenge.
Has he looked at himself lately? Young and blossoming?
So
I don't mean to be cruel, but you know.
Hang on, I was a god about 10 minutes ago.
Yes. 10 minutes is a long time in love.
Yeah, it certainly is.
A rugged god,
So
though.
what is your challenge within the rules of Just a Minute?
Deviation from the truth.
Oh, shall we put it to the audience?
No.
No, I don't think you could compare his complexion to that of a young virgin. I really don't. So, Suki, you have 26 seconds on my favourite diet starting now.
My favourite diet is chocolate. I have a very sweet tooth. As long as it's packed with sugar and calories, I will eat it. None of this low-fat, high-fibre for me. Give me cake. Give me biscuits.
Gyles challenge.
Just a repeat of the give me.
Yes, and I think all the audience spotted it as well. So, give me, and there's 12 seconds for you, Gyles. My favourite diet starting now.
No bread, rice, pasta or potatoes. Only consume food that traditionally requires the use of cutlery and eat 3 times a day on your own, chewing everything at least 26 times.
So at the end of that round, Gyles Brandeth was once again speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. But Suki Webster's creeping up, and she's only 1 point behind him. And she's 2 or 3 points ahead of Graham Norton and Paul Merton in that order. Suki, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is In the Doghouse. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
As a teenager, I was often in the doghouse for my pubescent antics. I spent so long in the doghouse, which wasn't easy because we had a miniature Pekingese. Getting in there was very troublesome. Eventually, I refurbed it and put it in a conservatory. That was much better. Neil Armstrong was also put in the doghouse by his wife. When he went to the moon, he had told her that he had just popped down to the newsagents for a paper. She wasn't happy. She didn't speak to him for 3...
Paul challenge.
Unfortunately, it was a repetition of she, quite quickly.
She, right.
Oh, I know.
Oh.
It's a correct challenge. Those are the rules of Just a Minute.
A lot of us make correct challenges and they go ignored, you know. But not necessarily me, obviously.
I can't give you a bonus point.
No, I don't want a bonus point. I just want to take this opportunity to say how much I admire you, Nicholas. I always have.
I can't give you a bonus point for flattery or for bitterness.
Oh, God, that's what keeps me awake.
31 seconds, Paul. You have another point, and you have the subject In the Doghouse, starting now.
In the Doghouse is indeed referring to the kennel that you find resting against a lot of domestic homes in the mid-19th century. One thinks of it as an American invention. I don't know why I'm talking like this, but I think I'm prematurely...
Suki challenge.
I thought there was a hesitation.
No, there wasn't a hesitation.
I apologise. I take it back.
You could have had him for deviation from his normal speech, but it's a bit fake now.
Too late.
Right. Paul, an incorrect challenge, and the point to you. 16 seconds in the doghouse, starting now.
One thinks of those fantastic Tom and Jerry cartoons where the dog, always the enemy of the cat, was put into the doghouse and he would react in a very angry way. I remember one particular animated adventure.
Graham, challenge.
Repetitive remember.
Nobody does. The ultimate irony.
I think right at the beginning you said, I remember those...
You're not sure, though, are you?
No.
You've got no idea, have you, really?
Madame.
You haven't, have you? How much do you want to bet on it? We're taping this, we can play it back. We
No, we haven't got time for that. I have to make a very quick decision. It is. Now, I think at the beginning you said, I remember. And so, Graham, you have a point. And you have 2 seconds in the doghouse.
Sorry, yeah. How many seconds?
In the doghouse, 2 seconds.
This is genius. Marvellous. Okay.
2 seconds starting now.
In the doghouse, there is a lot of...
Right. So Graham Norton was then speaking as the whistle went. He's crept forward. He's now equal with Suki Webster in second place. They are 1 point behind Gyles Brandeth, and they're all just 5 points ahead of Paul Merton. But it's the contribution. Isn't it? And we're going into the final round. And Graham, it's with you to begin. The subject is my first car. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Since you asked, my first car was a Toyota RAV4. Bought a little prematurely because I couldn't drive at the time. I assumed I'd learn, which I did many years later. But that car did...
Giles challenge.
It was a laugh to cover their hesitation.
Ooh.
No,
J'accuse.
I'm going to interpret that as a laugh through dialogue.
Oh, very good.
And
That's
not
a very...
rather than a
Can I say that's brilliantly put?
Yes.
So you have
It was
the
actually a
benefit...
laugh through tears.
I gave you the benefit of the doubt the time before. Giles, Graham has it on this occasion.
Can I just establish, I haven't had my benefit of the doubt yet, have I?
Give it to him now, then. Give him the... Right. 46 seconds, Graham. My first car, starting now.
In retrospect, it was perhaps a mistake to buy a car just because it had cup holders.
Paul, challenge.
Was that repetition of buy?
Paul, a correct challenge. 42 seconds. My first car, starting now.
My first car was a Rover. You pressed the button and the automatic roof went up and down. I wasn't particularly very fond of this vehicle. It had a rather top-heavy feel to it, but I had recently passed my test and I was keen to get out on the land's motorways. Afterwards, I bought another car that was a much better one than the previous. Oh, this is the most boring thing I've ever said in all my life.
And Giles challenge.
There's a charitable intervention. Because he was saying it was very boring and he was moving towards a hesitation. I was anticipating that.
No, you can be as boring as you like in just a minute.
Exactly,
as long
Nicholas.
as you don't hesitate.
I mean, exactly, Nicholas. The intonation was wrong there, wasn't it? I didn't mean like exactly, Nicholas.
It was the right intonation because it got a laugh.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I'm very tolerant. I accept the laughs even though they're at my expense.
Yeah.
So, benefit of the doubt to you, Paul. You got another benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Oh, the two benefits of the doubt.
19 seconds, my first...
How many seconds?
19.
Right.
Second starting now.
My first car was a miracle of engineering. Let me take you through every aspect of the engine. There was a couple of bits that went whoop and another thing that went sue, and I realised that I had no idea how this magnificent creation could be powered down the road. I was...
Well, as I said a moment ago, this was to be the last round, and it is, and they give the final score. Well, it's extremely fair and serious. There's only 1 point separates all four of them. So what can I do but to say that Suki, Webster and Paul Merton are just 1 point behind Gyles Brandeth and Graham Norton, but I think they all did so well. I don't say that any one of them is a winner above the other. I say all four of them are winners this week. and they were all so good. So let me say, finally, a very great thank you to Paul Merton, Gyles, Brandeth, Suki, Webster, and Graham Norton. I also thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle so elegantly. We are grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre who've cheered us on our way magnificently. So from our audience, and from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the panel, we are grateful to you. And please remember, tune in again at the same time next week, or the week after, or next year, when we play Just a Minute!
And the test of verbal fluency and dexterity returns to Radio 4 Extra in just a minute, next week at the same time.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme four bright, intelligent, and humorous players of this game. And those four bright, intelligent people are, seated on my right, Tony Hawks and Pam Ayres, and seated on my left, Sue Perkins and Tim Rice. Please welcome all four of them. Thank you. Seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, and she's going to help me keep a score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we have a happy, warm, spontaneous audience here, ready to cheer us on our way as we start the show with Pam Ayres. Oh, what a lovely subject for you. Chicklet. Tell us something about it in this game, Pam. Chicklet, starting now.
Chicklet is probably something that Barbara Cartland did not dictate from her sofa while fondling a pug. Oh, no. It is more the case that it deals with some heroine or career girl in what is perceived to be a very attractive environment in which to work. For example, the media or the fashion trade or things...
Sue, you challenged.
Precision of awe.
I'm afraid there were too many oars there.
Oh.
You've won no friends with that challenge.
It's too early to turn. Come on.
She was going in such strength, Sue, but you did repeat all. So within the rules of just a minute, I may say, Sue, you have a correct challenge. You have 35 seconds. Tell us something about Chicklet, starting now.
Mbosa scan the red plains of Kigali and contemplate...
Pam, you've challenged.
It's African.
They have chicks in Africa?
No, it's not what you call chicklet.
I was about to make that point.
No, it was...
Why shouldn't you have one of those sort of steamy chicklet-sized situations? These two characters.
What was the name of the first character, though?
Mbosa.
Well, that's hesitation.
No, I don't think that was deviation, Pam.
I was secretly peeved about the oars, really.
I know. It's tough.
I feel we're 1-1 now. I think we've both drawn blood. Yeah.
Anyway, that was an incorrect challenge, darling.
Then.
So you still have the subject.
Thanks, Poppy.
Of Chicklet, and there are 30 seconds starting now.
Alex is a doctor, slack-jawed and ready to roll. She doesn't have a job but wants babies. Oh, my ovaries are drying. Must find a man. Where can I go? The supermarket? I don't care. I'll travel miles because a baby will take my mind off the lack of personality that the writer has ascribed to me. He looks hot. What does he do? Is that a stethoscope? Touch me, but maybe don't, because let's face it, I want to widen the audience that buys these books, and pornography will simply detract from the overall theme.
So Sue Perkins kept going magnificently until the whistle went. And have you actually put that down for a book you're writing?
Yes. I feel I've somewhat given it away now.
Anyway, you're now in the lead, just ahead of the others. And, Tim, it's your turn to begin. The subject is the aardvark. Tell us something about that creature in this game, starting now.
Aardvark never hurt anybody, but this is not the thrust of my argument. The aardvark is an animal that you will find mainly in Africa. It is not related, as many believe, to the pig, but if to anything at all, the elephant. Isn't this amazing? I don't hear you cry. Aardvarks are anteaters.
Sue challenge.
Slight hesitation?
Slight hesitation, but not enough
Yes,
to give
quite.
it.
What a great... I mean, this man Parsons, he has few equals as
An arbiter of
as an
hesitation.
arbiter. He has many superiors, but few equals.
Now, come on, Nicholas, surely. Come on.
No.
Come on.
You can't pay a compliment with one hand and then take it away with the other.
Look me in the eyes, Silver Fox, and give me that point. Come on.
No, I must be fair. I think it was a bit of a sharp challenge. So, Tim, you didn't pause enough for it to be within the rules of just a minute. You're still with the aardvark, and you have 42 seconds starting now.
Every morning as the sun rises over the plains around the mountain of Kilimanjaro...
Pam challenge.
I thought there was a hesitation there.
No, there was no hesitation. He was going consistently at the same speed the whole time. So you've got another point, Tim. You've still got the aardvark. You've got 37 seconds starting now.
Aardvarks are fantastic animals. They go incredible speeds around the country. They run.
So challenged.
They run.
So deviation from his normal pace of delivery.
Yes, and they run, apparently.
Right,
yeah,
yes,
so
that's
I'll
right.
go for...
So, Tim, you let yourself down there. Right, so 33... You've got 33 seconds, Sue. You've got the point. You've got the subject. Aardvark, starting now.
An aardvark is a streetwise vark, and as such, there were so few of them that it ended up extinct. Stay with me, don't turn your backs. There's more to say about this noble beast, which looks at best like an obese shrew, and could be found, as Tim has just informed me, in Africa, because up until then, I had absolutely no idea, other than the fact I never came across it in Croydon, which is my only sphere of reference when it comes to animals, and therefore only domestic cats and dogs are available to me as things I recognise. Possibly it's extinct. I might be thinking about the
Tony challenge.
Well, you know what? I was going to try and get her on deviation because I thought she hadn't really mentioned aardvarks for some time. And then, lo and behold, she went and mentioned aardvarks. It's a disaster. My worst nightmare.
It isn't. I don't know what to do because she did deviate there.
Well, just give it to me then.
All right. I'll give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption. You got a point because you were
did I? Good, all right.
You've got 3 seconds on aardvark starting now.
Joan of Aardvark was their leader.
No, Sue went magnificently again. She's getting the extra point for speaking as the whistle went, and others in the round. She's in a strong lead. She's 2 ahead of Tim Rice and 4 ahead of Tony Hawks and Pam Ayres. Sue Perkins, it's your turn to begin, and the subject is Alfred Hitchcock. Will you tell us something about that great director in this game, starting now?
Alfred Hitchcock was the master of suspense and the scourge of shower manufacturers. He was born in England but spent most of his productive life working in America. My favourite film, of course, is Psycho, in which the lead character dies early, which became a hallmark of his films.
Tim challenge.
Deviation, the lead character does not die early. The lead character is, in fact, the murderer, Anthony Perkins.
The lead character? No, the heroine. The lead character. She's set up as the lead character.
Oh, she's in it for about 15 minutes.
That's what I said, she died
All
early.
she does... I mean, anybody could have played that part. She just gets...
She's incandescent, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it doesn't matter that anybody could play the part. I do agree with you, Tim, that the starring role was the one that Perkins played. And so, Tim, it was a correct challenge. And you have the subject, and you have 45 seconds. Alfred Hitchcock, starting now.
My favourite Alfred Hitchcock film is, of course, if I may quote Sue Perkins, a film called Rope. This, like many of his great movies, was shot in one small scene only. It was the brilliance of Hitchcock that made it possible to entertain an audience rather like I'm gripping you now, in absolute silence and fascination when nothing whatsoever happened. This is a rare gift. And if only...
Pam, you've challenged.
Well, I thought there was a hesitation at the end of this is a rare gift.
Yes, I think he did slightly hesitate
yes,
then,
I admit it.
He waited for an effect which didn't actually come.
I was planning to be drowned out by applause at that point. Somehow it never happened.
So, Pam, let's hear from you on Alfred Hitchcock. And there are 18 seconds starting now.
Alfred Hitchcock was a man of rather unprepossessing appearance. He had double chins, and an interesting device took place at the beginning of his productions where a sketch of his visage would appear and he would kind of step into it.
So Pam Ayres will then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point. She's now equal with Tony Hawkes in third place. Tim's second. Sue's in the lead. Same situation. Tony, we're back with you to start. And the subject now, Oxford Circus. Tell us something about Oxford Circus in this game, starting now.
One of the most annoying things about Oxford Circus, and I arrived there earlier this evening on the way to this lovely little theatre, is the fact that people come up and thrust bits of paper at you all the time, telling you to go and see things or learn languages. I'm OK at English, thank you very much, as you will find in the next 40 seconds or so, as I reel off a brilliant short speech on Oxford Circus. The first time I went to the circus was in Oxford. Happy coincidence, you might think. But no way Tim Rice is going to get me on this and say it's not true, because it was an amazing night. I stood there as I didn't have a seat, as the clown came out.
Tim, challenge.
Well, I feel guilty about this, but there was an as which led to consecutive prepositions. I pressed my bell by mistake, I'm sorry.
I still don't understand your challenge.
He challenged and then was intimidated by the audience, which en masse have become a violent, bubbling Radio 4 light entertainment mob.
Right. And Tony, you have another point, and you keep the subject. 21 seconds, still Oxford Circus, starting now.
On an evening when I have nothing to do,
Tim, challenge.
Repetition of evening.
Oh, yes, because you talked about being there before. Well, this
Yes.
It is true.
Tim, well listened. 18 seconds are still available. You tell us something about Oxford Circus now.
There is a very famous circus in the town of Oxford called St Giles's Circus, and I have been there on...
Pam, challenge.
I don't think it is called St Giles's Circus. I think it's called St Giles's Fair.
It's not called St Giles's Circus.
No.
That's right.
It takes place every year in St Giles, but it's actually called St Giles's Fair, as I was brought up very near Oxford, and I happen to know this fact.
So, Pam, correct challenge. You have 13 seconds. Tell us something about Oxford Circus, starting now.
I once took my young children to a really crummy old circus near Oxford where a very unfunny clown...
Tony, challenge.
How near?
About 2 miles.
OK, all right.
Near enough for not to be deviation. It's all right, Tony. Well tried. 5 seconds, Pam. Another point to you. Oxford Circus, still the subject, starting now.
With a fairy liquid bottle full of water came round and squirted.
Right. So, Pam Ayres got points in that round, including one for speaking as the whistle went, and she's moved rapidly forward. She's still in third place, but she's only... She's only 1 point behind our joint leaders, Sue Perkins and Tim Rice. And Tony's trailing a little, but only 2 points. What's it matter? It's the value. It's all gone very quiet, so let's lift it up. Pam, will you begin the next round? The subject, oh, what a subject. Passion. Tell us something about passion in this game, starting now.
Of the many types of passion which exist, I would like to discuss the passion flower, which has in its centre a cross which people of a religious...
Sue, you challenged.
Repetition of which?
Oh. Did you say which twice?
Definitely not.
This is becoming a witch hunt now. In Pam just flutters her doe eyes at Nicholas.
No,
to be visibly
well, darling,
palpates.
You gave me your doe eyes the last time around.
Yes, but I've got 4 of them and they're not as effective.
I think the only thing to say is that I honestly didn't spot the second witch.
I don't have a clue. I was just gabbling as best I could, really.
So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you.
On this occasion. And I'll redress the balance with you if you want to. What do you get your trousers off for?
I thought we were redressing the balance.
I know it's hot, but you didn't want to dress the underpart of your garments. Right. Passion is still with you, Pam. It's 49 seconds starting now.
After the passion flower comes...
Tim challenged.
Repetition of
I
flower.
did. Yeah, you're right. Yes,
passion
you're right.
flower.
Yeah.
Passion flower. You needn't clap every correct challenge, otherwise we'll never get to the end of the show. Tim, you have the subject of passion. 42 seconds starting now.
I'm in danger of being carried away when I discuss this subject because passion is such an important part of my life. It was also a rather...
Yes, Tony.
Clearly not that important.
Or else it was so important he got carried away.
So, hesitation.
Hesitation.
Right. Tony, 34 seconds. You tell us something about passion starting now.
Pam talked about the passion flower. I would like to discuss the passion fruit, about which I know very little.
Tim challenged.
Well, in that case, hand over to someone who knows about it.
No, he wasn't deviating from the subject. He kept going, and that's what this game's all about. So, Tony, another point to you, and you still have passion. You always had passion, but you have the subject of passion. 27 seconds starting now.
Sometimes when you get given a subject on Just a Minute and you don't know what to say, if you infuse yourself with passion, you can get through the subject right
Pam is challenged.
I thought there was a repetition of you. If you do this and you do that.
Yes, if you enthuse yourself, you can get through it all. Well, listen, Pam.
Yes.
Sorry about that,
That's
Tony.
all right,
She
no,
lied.
Apologise, that's the way we play the game, darling. 19 seconds. Passion. Back with you, Pam. Having a lot of passion from you in this show. Starting now.
When cut, it reveals a yellow interior.
I'm just trying to remember what Pam started off talking about. I think it's a repetition of yellow. I think earlier there was a yellow cross.
No, it was definitely not a yellow cross.
No, she hesitated.
Do you know what? I'm going to be very quiet now.
Right. Tim.
Hesitation.
Too late now. Pam, another point to you.
Oh, thank you.
Let's have more passion from you. 14 seconds, starting now.
Filled with a glutinous yellow fluid and black...
Wait a minute, Tim,
yellow.
Well, we definitely got yellow.
Definitely got yellow there.
You see, I'm playing psychic Just a Minute.
If this means that Pam will have to stop talking about this flower, surely we should let her keep the subject. We really want to hear more.
No, I've got to be fair. Otherwise, I get letters from people saying, you weren't fair, and Tim would have won if you'd given him that point and so forth. No, I mean, let's be fair with the rules of Just a Minute. She repeated yellow then. Tim was the first to challenge, so he gets a point for that. He takes over the subject of passion, and there are 11 seconds, Tim, starting now.
I'm an old passion fruit at heart, and it always inspires in me heavy breathing. Let me demonstrate. That is what always happens when passion strikes your veins.
So Tim got the point again for speaking as the whistle went, and he's now in the lead, but he's only 1 point behind Pam, who's leapt forward. She's in second place now, and just training behind them, Miss Sue Perkins and then Tony Hawks in that order. Tim, we're back with you. We'd like you to begin the next round of the subject, bingo. You tell us something about bingo in Just a Minute, starting now.
I can't tell you a lot about bingo, but I'm going to tell you enough to make...
Tony Chan.
Tell. Repetition of tell. Repetition. I can't
Yes,
tell you
that's
much.
right.
I'm going to tell you enough.
Spotted, Tony.
In there like a...
Like a knife.
Like a knife, yes.
Like a passion flower.
Yes.
57 seconds available. Bingo is with you, Tony, starting now.
I once tried to play bingo in France. Now, I'm not too bad at French, but it's very difficult when the numbers come up. They say them 99, and you're trying to work it out whilst the other people have moved on to 4 other numbers. It's...
Tim Shannon.
Repetition of 4 in 2 languages, I admit, but... He said 4, and then he said 4. Repetition.
We go by the words.
Ah, mon
and
Dieu.
quatre is different to 4.
Pardon, mille
So you can
pardons.
say 4, or you can say quatre, you say 5, and say 5, and you're not repeating anything.
Ah, brilliant.
Right, Tony, an incorrect challenge. You have 42 seconds. Tell us more about bingo, starting now.
Many years ago, I made a little trip to Ireland and actually met a barman called Bingo, a quite magnificent man. This is absolutely true. You can check on this if you want to.
Pam challenge.
Repetition of this.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Tough one, but it's true. Right, Pam, you've got 31 seconds. Tell us something about bingo starting now.
In the Village Institute in Stamford-in-the-Vale, which was then in Berkshire, I won an aluminium saucepan with a red handle and an...
Right.
What is aluminium?
It's aluminium with an Oxford accent.
It's
After a bottle of wine?
No,
After you've actually had too many meals out of aluminium pans, I guess.
I think we all knew what she meant.
Yes, we did.
And I love the red handle, though. Pam, another point to you. Incorrect challenge. 21 seconds. Bingo starting now.
Other prizes included a Danzette record player, a set of chamois leather...
Sue, challenge.
Slight hesitation.
There was a hesitation there, yes.
The excitement of the chamois.
It was the excitement of the chamois leather, really.
Yes, it was chamois. 14 seconds, Sue. Bingo starting now.
Bingo is the most fun you can have with a pencil and 14 pensioners surrounding you. I've been there. I've experienced the visceral thrill of numbers being hurled into the air. 2 fat ladies, 13. Legs, 11. 24.
So, Sue Perkins, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. They're all very, very close. Pam Ayres is now just in the lead, 1 ahead of Tim Rice, who's 1 ahead of Sue Perkins, who's 1 ahead of Tony Hawks. It's as close as that. And they're all giving such value, aren't they? That's what's important. Sue Perkins, we're back with you. We'd like you to begin the next round. Things that are best served cold. 60 seconds starting now.
Salad, gazpacho and revenge are all dishes best served cold, by which they mean sit back a little, enjoy and savour the moment after the heat has gone out of it all. Passion we discussed earlier. I've had some of that but didn't bing the buzzer in time. Bing the buzzer. Well done, Susan. That'll help.
So, Tony, you challenge first.
Yes, I think it was a hesitation.
We interpret that as hesitation. Yes, 43 seconds. Things that are best served cold, Tony, starting now.
Sue mentioned gazpacho as being something best served cold, and this has always seemed morally wrong to me. Soup should be hot. No question about it. The British can stand firm on this as one. Whether we have to fight battles in the European courts to get it overturned, let's bring our own little heaters in, I say, and get the Spanish soup warmed up.
Well done, Tony. You made your point and you got your vote. Tim, you challenge first.
What a repetition of soup.
Yes, indeed, right. 20 seconds. Things best served cold is with you, Tim, starting now.
Passion fruit is best served cold. Also, aardvark is awful if it's hot. Much nicer to get the animal absolutely freezing and chop off its tasty bits.
Tony, challenge.
If you get it absolutely freezing, it's going to be much harder to chop off. The tasty bits, they'll be rock solid.
I've just had its nostrils described by Pam as being basically a world of carpets rolled up a nostril. I don't believe the aardvark's got any tasty bits.
And also, but you wouldn't freeze an aardvark and then chop its bits off.
You wouldn't do it, but you know, we're not Tim Rice. He maybe have certain fetishes and we enjoy it.
But hang on a minute, if it was a big aardvark and you're only feeding 2, you probably would want to put it in the freezer.
Yeah.
You don't want to waste it.
They go off quickly.
So I've heard, especially they
Tim,
see you
I'm
with
going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say right, because I don't think you technically, within the rules of just a minute, were deviating. 9 seconds. Things that are best served cold, starting now.
I would like to agree with my good friend Tony Hawks about this soup issue. It is a grave error on behalf of...
Sue, challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, there was. Right.
Total collapse.
And you've got him with 2 seconds to go. On things best served cold, starting now.
How I love a cold soup. Call me a European.
Right. So Sue Perkins, speaking as the whistle went, then get the extra point. We're now moving into the final round. Oh, how warm and sympathetic you are. So let me give you the score, because it's very interesting. They're all so close as we start off. Tony is trailing a little for once. He's in 4th place, but he's only 1 point behind Pam Ayres and Sue Perkins, who have got 10 points. And only 1 ahead of them is Tim Rice with 11. So it's anybody's game. And we come to the beginning again. Tony, it's actually your turn to begin. And we've got now summertime. Tell us something about summertime in just a minute, starting now.
I once knew an American fellow who said he'd been in England for 10 years or 2 summers. I don't know what he was referring to. I love the summer times we have here to run out and splash in the puddles and jump around. In listening, of course, to Gershwin's magnificent tune, Summertime. Lyrics?
Tim, challenge.
No, Gershwin wrote the tune. The lyrics were not by Gershwin. Well, actually, they were by another Gershwin, but not the Gershwin Tony meant.
Well, I said the tune written by Gershwin, and then I went on to say lyrics, and I was about to say Ira Gershwin, and I didn't get a chance.
Well, I apologise. I think, Tony, you're absolutely right. I think you should lock me a point off.
I never take points off, because what happens is an incorrect challenge gains one of your opponents a point.
Really?
Yes, I'm very grateful.
If you haven't spotted that yet, Tim, I'm a bit worried. So, Tony, an incorrect challenge. You have another point. You have 41 seconds. Summertime starting now.
There Ain't No Cure for the Summertime Blues is another magnificent piece of music. I don't know who wrote that, but I'm not going to go into that, but I will say...
So, yes.
Repetition of that.
There were too much of that, yes. 34 seconds with you, Sue, on Summertime, starting now.
Summertime in Croydon is like hot Mordor. You can't wait to see how the concrete melts under your kiddie feet. As you cross the Whitgift Centre, blazing on your face, it shines down upon you. It is the most incredible...
Tony, challenge.
Has the Whitgift not got a roof?
Parts of it are still open air.
I
mean, I appreciate... Yes, no.
You did say the sun blazing down upon you as you marched
It's a glass roof.
The Whitgift Centre.
It is a glass.
It is a glass... Can we get confirmation that it is a glass?
It doesn't
From
matter.
another audience.
It does have a glass roof, doesn't it? Yeah!
It doesn't matter what the rules are just mean. She was marching through it.
Okay.
It was all right.
All right, I'm wrong. I'm
She got
horribly
another
wrong.
point. And she has 20 seconds. Summertime, Sue, starting now.
How I looked up at the transparent roof made entirely of glass. What incredible modern masterpiece this cantilevering is as the sun bounced through it. I've said...
Tim, challenge.
Repetition of sun, I'm afraid.
Yeah, we had the sun before.
Yes.
And
Come
Tim.
out twice, which is unusual for a summertime.
So, Tim... Another correct challenge, 11 seconds, Summertime, starting now.
Summertime Blues was actually written by Eddie Cochran, a wonderful rock and roller, and it begins, I'm gonna raise a fuss, I'm going to do the same thing.
Yeah, if you're going to repeat sort of rock and roll lyrics like that, they are a repetition.
He got very posh. He was trying to avoid it. He says, I'm gonna do this. I'm going to. He had elocution lessons between the first and the second line.
Right, so Tony, you've cleverly got in with 3 seconds to go on Summertime, starting now.
So I walked through the forest.
Well, I give you the final score. It couldn't be fairer because they've all given such incredible value. Tony Hawks, who came with a rush at the end there, not in quite a big enough flourish to get right underneath, but he's equal with Pam Ayres in second place, but only 1 point behind. We have equal winners, Tim Rice and Sue Perkins. So, well done. It only remains me to say well done to all 4 of them and the great value they've given. We have to say a few thank yous. I thank Sarah Sharp for the way she ran the stopwatch for me, and also for blowing her whistle so elegantly after the 60 seconds. We thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing and unbelievable game. And we are also grateful to this lovely audience here at the Radio Theatre in Broadcasting House for cheering us on our way. So from the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, thank you for being with us. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute.
Next week, Graham Norton, Paul Merton, Gyles Brandeth and Pauline McLynn talk. A lot, but not too much.
Welcome to Just a Minute. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the show 4 talented, exciting performers who are going to display their way with words, their verbal ingenuity, and rapport as they speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those four are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Gyles Brandeth, and seated on my left, Pauline McGlynn and Graham Norton. Please welcome all four of them. Seated beside me is Sarah Sharp, who's going to help me with the score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Radio Theatre in the heart of Broadcasting House. And we're going to begin the show with Graham Norton. Who better? Graham. Oh, this is interesting. The subject is how to outdo the other panellists. You have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
By far the easiest way to outdo the other panellists is by heaping praise on our chairman, Nicholas Parsons. Compliment his hair, his jaunty jacket, his colourful tie, and surely benefit of the doubt will heap upon you, and points will be yours. You will be carried from this radio theatre. I'm from Ireland, it's allowed, I'm from Ireland.
That's the way we say it.
Deviation, theatre instead of theatre.
No, it was the Irish pronunciation. I think it was quite correct.
So with the benefit of the doubt.
Oh!
And you keep the subject, 40 seconds still available, how to outdo the other panellists, starting now.
I think there you saw a happy demonstration of how to outdo the other panellists.
Paul, challenge.
Deviation, I didn't find it happy at all.
Give Paul a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption, but Graham, you were interrupted, so you have 35 seconds to continue with how to outdo the other panellists, starting now.
How to outdo the other panellists is to speak when Nicholas says now, but I already said Nicholas.
Paul, challenge.
Repetition of Nicholas.
That's right, you had Nicholas before, right?
Curse ye gods!
You don't really have too much Nicholas on this show, right?
To outdo the other panellists.
Benefit of something, yeah. Benefit in kind.
I'd like to give you the bonus point for that, but I'm far too modest. Therefore, Paul, you had a correct challenge. You have 27 seconds on how to outdo the other panellists, starting now.
It's not easy to outdo the other panellists. Sometimes you can lay verbal tricks. They think you've said something before, and then you find actually it's a trick, and you didn't.
Pauline, challenge.
Repetition of trick?
No, darling, it was trick and tricks.
This is a rule that's always bothered me, Nicholas. And you know how I am about
and you
rules.
haven't played the game as much as the others, and that's one of the clever ways they have of doing it. So, Paul, an incorrect challenge, 18 seconds still available. How to outdo the other panellists, starting now.
Praising Nicholas Parsons is a rather passé way of succeeding at this show. However, I'm going to give it a go, as everybody else has been. When I look at that beautiful masculine form, I can't help but think of King Kong in that wonderful movie. Nicholas Parsons versus Godzilla.
Giles, challenge.
Repetition of Nicholas.
Yes, and Parsons.
Yeah. Give us the benefit of the doubt, then. You like a bit of flattery, don't you,
there's
girl?
no benefit of the doubt. It is an obvious, correct challenge. And, Giles, you've got him with 1 second to go. It's won you no friends in the audience. But you have the subject with 1 second on how to outdo the other panellists, starting now.
Being your love child has helped.
So, in this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, it was Gyles Brandeth, so he has 2 points at the end of that round. Paul has 3, Graham has 2, and Pauline has an attempted 1. But, Pauline, will you begin the next round?
I certainly
lovely
will.
subject. Tea. Tell us something about tea in this game. Oh, I think they've got the connection with the character you used to play, but talk on it, 60 seconds, starting now.
Tea is not such an unusual subject for me to speak upon because I once was a tea lady. I like my tea in the builder's variety. I'm not very fond of herbal or fruit teas because I think they always deliver less than they promise. I'm very bad at making tea, even the builder's tea. I make it quite weak.
Oh, Paul, challenge.
I can say it before any builders, wasn't it?
That's right.
Men, my
You
downfall.
realise what you did wrong. Paul, you challenge.
Repetition of builders.
Yes. So you have tea. You have 41 seconds to talk about it starting now.
It's pretty good for you as a drink. The green variety is even better than the black leaf. But if you are really keen on promoting good health through sipping tea, then I can...
Gyles challenge.
Really good for you, and if you're keen on promoting good health.
Oh.
Repetition of the word good.
Yes. Well listened, well listened.
It's like it's a game. Nice one, nice.
You have 31 seconds on tea starting now. Paul challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes. So you have the subject. 29 and a half seconds, Paul, on tea starting now.
It's grown in Japan, China, India, where it's drunk by the Chinese, the Japanese, the Indians. Throughout the world, you'll find grateful citizens coming home towards the end of the evening, looking at their loved ones, reaching for a cup off the mantelpiece, and the two of them getting down the old teapot that was given to them at their ruby wedding anniversary. And they look into each other's eyes as they share a little cup of Darjeeling. Oh, how we dance!
Gyles, you challenge.
Repetition of cup.
Once again, you've got him with only 4 seconds to go. Tea starting now.
The Eastern mystic who originated tea tore off his eyelids and threw them into the ground.
So, at the end of that round, Gyles Brandeth was speaking as a whistle. Wayne gained the extra point. He's now equal with Paul in the lead, 5 points apiece, and Graham comes next, and then Pauline. And Gyles, we'd like you to begin the next round. I think this could have been chosen for you. The subject is pretentious vocabulary. And you have 60 seconds as usual. I should explain to our listeners, Gyles has never looked more eager and confident. Instead of the rather tense look he has on his face on occasions, it's all smiles and bonhomie as he goes on pretentious vocabulary starting now.
I suspect this has come about, Nicholas, in a most amusing and delightful way, because once I said to you that a slight inclination of the cranium is as adequate as a spasmodic movement of one optic to an equine quadruped utterly devoid of visionary capacity, when I really meant a nod is as good as a wink to a blind horse. And you said, pretentious vocabulary, mon brave, we don't need any of that on our show. And I replied, in your presence, monsieur, we need to talk in the most remarkable way, because language is power. It's what defines us and differentiates us from the animals whose hands do trail upon the ground. As the great philosopher Bertrand Russell said, no matter how eloquently a dog may bark, he cannot tell you that his parents were poor but honest. A pretentious vocabulary allows this. William Shakespeare had a pretentious vocabulary of 30,000 different words. James Joyce, in just one work, Ulysses, used a comparable number, several of which I hope that you have not yet come across. Oh, my gorgeous chairman. When we speak of the language of vocabulary, pretension, beauty, earnestness, and exotic power, they all come to bear. And tension is amounting, and here we are, as the minute waltz fades away and the second series begins. The autumn comes upon us, night falls, dusk rises, and we think about our language and its beauty and richness.
Well, Gyles Brandeth started with the subject.
He's off.
You're on my way now.
And with a little help from the rest of the panel, who got the message which I lent out, let him go. And he went with aplomb and style for 1 minute and 15 seconds. Listeners, the audience here were in on the secret because I took the whistle out of Sarah's mouth when the 60 seconds was up, so that we can have more fun at Gyles' expense. So, Gyles, you get a point for speaking when the whistle should have gone, and you get another point for not being interrupted, actually. That's what happens in this game. So at the end of that round, you've increased your lead, and nobody else has scored anything in that round. So, Paul, would you take the next round? The subject is accents. Tell us something about accents in this game, starting now.
Many years ago, I saw the wonderful Peter Sellers on the Michael Parkinson show. And in that particular television recording, he did an impression of Alec Guinness from the film Kind Hearts and Coronets. This, of course, is the movie where the aforementioned actor plays 8 different parts. This is the vicar that I am doing now.
The first time I met the other Beatles, I thought to myself, I can't be the drummer because I've already got one.
That also is from the same movie.
Accents are very important. When I joined Radio 4 back in 1986, I was told in no uncertain terms, the bins are round the back. And you know, I've never forgotten that advice. I believe it was the great Bertrand Russell himself, the philosopher, who uttered the immortal phrases, "I'm sorry."
So Paul Merton started with the subject and kept going for 60 seconds without being interrupted, without hesitation, repetition or deviation, proving that he can do it as well, and in a different way, in a different voice actually as well. So at the end of that round, Paul, you are now equal in the lead with Gyles Brandeth. And we don't often get 2 complete rounds of 60 seconds in the same show, but it was a memorable moment in its own way. The audience has gone very quiet. I don't know why.
They want to buy souvenir postcards.
They're very, very afraid now. That's what's wrong.
Graham, they're in awe, actually. Graham, we're back with you to begin.
Let the buzzers begin.
I'm fascinated by why...
This is like normal play resumed.
I don't know why this subject's been chosen for you, Graham, but I'm sure you can talk on it. Waxing. 60 seconds starting now.
I'm a little bit hairy. I mean, not furry like a monkey, but I have had some waxing done. It's really cruel and horrible because it does rip your flesh from bits of your body that aren't normally seen, so why go to that bother? Far easier to turn a light out, I find. Waxing is also very expensive, and usually it's a strange sadomasochistic...
Paul challenge.
It's a bit elongated.
It was elongated,
yes.
but he
I was stressing the word.
Yes, he was stressing the words.
Stressing,
and
was stressing
elongated
it, yeah.
I don't think it was enough to be interpreted as hesitation.
No. Yeah.
Right? So, Paul, Graham, you have the benefit of the doubt. You have 35 seconds. Waxing is still with you, starting now.
Moons wax as well. Waxing, like something you do at a candle factory. But mainly, waxing is to do with the removal of that stuff that grows on the skin. Which I hadn't said before, I don't think, actually. I was searching when I hadn't.
That was a hesitation.
That was a hesitation, yes. He was running out of things to say. Right. Gyles, correct challenge. 23 seconds with you on waxing starting now.
I come naturally waxed, and that was a problem when hairiness was in. Because... I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm glad you stopped him there. Oh, dear, oh, dear.
That had to be stopped there.
Yeah.
And then...
Right, nipped in the bud.
I come naturally waxed.
Yes.
How'd you make that out, then?
Oh, get a life, man. Just cope. Cope.
No.
Cope with you being naturally waxed.
Yeah.
How can... deviation, you can't be naturally waxed.
I am naturally waxed. The point
Don't make him prove it,
Yes.
Paul.
Please. It's ugly enough as it is.
I'm inclined to agree with Paul. You can't be naturally waxed.
Again, let's not push the point. Just let him say it and get on.
No.
Dear Lord.
But it is. It's actually a hormonal thing I'm going to explain.
What, you secrete wax? In your body?
It's a hormonal thing.
Can I
You
say
can't
to you,
have
can I ask you a
hormonal
straightforward question?
Yes.
Have you got any hair on your body?
No.
Yes, you do. Hey,
My head is not my body.
He's got hair on his head. He's got
My head
eyebrows.
is not my body. I've not got hair on my body.
Show us your chest.
Your head's not your body. Oh, for
Show us
goodness
your
sake.
chest. Come on. Come on, off. That's what they want.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Right,
What has happened to Radio 4? In only just a minute, shouting, off. It's a world turned upside down.
It's exactly the same on Gardener's question time.
If you're not going to physically prove it, even though it is radio, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Paul and tell him to carry on with 17 seconds to go on waxing starting now.
Used to be an essential part of the record industry when those particular discs were made of wax. If you think back to the early days of sound recording, it must have been extraordinarily difficult to fix these little waxing cylinders into the machine and try to get the reproduction of Caruso's right.
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point. He's now 1 ahead of Gyles Brandeth. He's a few ahead of Graham Norton, then Pauline McLean in that order. And Pauline, we'd like you to begin the next round. And the subject is junk mail. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
When people think about junk mail, they probably consider it to be all of those letters that gather on the carpet inside of the door. Me, not so much so. I think junk mail, I've gone out with a few of those. I've lived with them. I've married one or two. Junk mail to me is not the missive that tells you to buy something useless or tries to give you insurance that you really, really don't want. Junk... Let me guess.
It's one of the tricks of Just a Minute, which is easy. We often say really, really, and that is repetition in this game. So Paul spotted it first, and you have 37 seconds, Paul, on junk mail starting now.
Junk mail has, of course, increased dramatically over the decades. We now get it electronically. It used to be just substances coming through your letterbox saying, do you want to have the cleanest windows in Norbury? Then join our free monthly offer.
Gyles,
what a boring leaflet that would have been.
Gyles, your turn.
Hesitation.
Yes, I agree with the hesitation. So, Gyles, you have 24 seconds, and the subject is junk mail starting now.
At my prep school, when I first discovered I had a hormonal problem, I used to send off at weekends for communications about this particular ailment. And as a consequence, I received a great deal of junk mail. I then began building Messerschmitts and ships, including the Titanic, and eventually decided that a Chinese boat was what I wanted.
Paulie, you challenge.
Yes, I think he would have built a model of the Titanic. He won't have built the Titanic. Now, if he had, it would have sunk as well anyway. I know that... Oh, I've ruined the movie for everyone.
I explained that I was sending off for these things, a little baby Messerschmitt and a model of the Titanic.
No, you didn't say a model of the Titanic. You said, I built the Titanic. Sorry.
You did say that.
So you probably don't want to lay claim to that.
Yeah. There are still insurance
lawsuits pending.
So the benefit of the doubt to Paulie McLean on that.
Oh, my God. What am I talking about? Junk... Oh, no.
In a minute.
All right.
It's the subject you started with, but you've got it back again. But you've only got 4 seconds, and you start now.
I've always thought that every bit of...
The
cruelty of it. He's going to get me on hesitation.
Well, it was a hesitation.
It was a hesitation. Yeah. And I've got to be fair within the rules of Just a Minute.
It was a Titanic hesitation, I'd say.
So, Paul, you've got 1.5 seconds on junk mail starting now.
Junk mail says...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point, and he's now gone into the lead ahead of Gyles, Brandeth, Graham, Norton and Paulie McLean in that order. Gyles, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is groupies. Yes. Will you tell us something about groupies in this game starting now?
Oscar Wilde was plagued by groupies and indeed engaged a secretary to cope with them because people were wanting his autograph and locks of his hair. After a while, one member of his staff died of the cramp and the other went totally bald. I cope with my groupies in this way. I just invite them round and say, come on in and see my natural waxing. Because they're friends, they're on my side, I know that they enjoy what they see, and they find, once upon a time, of course, I had a chest wig with matching underarm toupees, but now the groupies say to me, I have to admit to you...
Graham challenged.
Repetition of hair.
Yeah,
repetition of hair, anyone? Is this on? Hello? Repetition of hair.
No, he didn't say hair twice.
Yes, he did. Lock of the hair, underarm hair.
Underarm hair, well
No, underarm toupees.
He did say underarm toupee.
I spoke with chest wig and underarm toupees.
Right, you're quite right.
Of course, technically there is no such thing as an underarm toupee, but we were giving him the benefit of the doubt.
You're a bit late in challenging on that, aren't you?
I know, but I want him to know that I know. That's the important thing.
So,
I see
Gyles,
you, Brandeth.
You have an incorrect challenge. 23 seconds, still with you, groupies, starting now.
Sadly, my groupies are not beautiful nymphets as I would fantasize. They are older men. And most of them seem to have problem with dandruff, and they have open-toed sandals, and they have trousers that are a little bit short for them. These are people who are on day release from certain institutions.
Paul, you've challenged.
He's describing what I'm wearing.
Gyles was interrupted, so he has the subject still in a point, and 6 seconds on groupies starting now.
My life as a rock star was a brief one, but I have to tell you the groupies that I secured around me were the most exciting and illuminating people that I ever met.
So Gyles Brandeth was again speakers of Whistle Wen, gained an extra point. He's moved forward, but he's one behind Paul Merton, who's still in the lead. Graham Norton follows, and then Pauline McLynn. And Graham, we're back with you to begin. The subject now is a right-hand man, starting now.
A right-hand man is very useful if your own right hand is busy. Presumably, that's where the expression comes from. I can only imagine the complicated scenario in which case this actually became...
Gyles, you've challenged.
I'm saving his career.
Are you sure you're in time?
No, we are.
So what is your challenge within the rules of just a minute?
My actual challenge was hesitation.
No, he didn't hesitate. He kept going. Giggled away, but he still kept going. So you still have the subject, Graham, and you have 46 seconds. A right-hand man starting now.
Everyone needs a right-hand man for those moments when you're busy and you require a supporter.
Gyles' challenge.
Hesitation and sexism.
No, we'll give you the hesitation.
Yeah.
And you have the subject, Gyles, 39 seconds, a right-hand man starting now.
When fighting a duel, a right-hand man is what you need to be. Because a left-handed duelist inevitably is killed in the third act, which is an awful way to go. I loathed it when I had right-hand men, or persons as I properly called them, because nowadays we are unisex and you cannot have assistants.
Paul, challenge.
Speak for yourself. Deviation, I'm not unisex. Am I, Nick? Don't look so doubtful, Nicholas. I'm not, am I? Is this the one secret that nobody will tell me? I'm not unisex, am I?
Well, I can't speak from personal experience. But,
can you not?
No, but I can know from observation that you are one sex. So, 18 seconds, Paul, a right-hand man, starting now.
A right-hand man is an invaluable person to help you through the career that is show business. My right-hand man is Nicholas Parsons. He secretly gives me points before the show, which I unwrap and eat in front of the other contestants.
Gyles' challenge.
You can't unwrap and eat points in front of the other contestants. It's a flight of fantasy too far, and it's also, if I may say so, deviation. Because to patronise you, Nicholas, to imply that you are anybody's right-hand man when you are the leader, we are your little... we are your humble henchpeople. You see where you're sitting in the centre of the room. Your right-hand man is on your right hand. He's called Paul. He is here as your right-hand man. I'm here as your love child.
Could you put a sock in it for a minute? Gyles, 5 seconds. A right-hand man, starting now.
A right-hand man is invaluable in the office because...
Paul, challenge.
Well, he's slurring his words now, isn't he? I mean, it's clearly, you know, the pills are having a side effect, so, you know, it's all over the place. I mean, it's embarrassing, really, wasn't it?
So what's your challenge on the rules of just a minute?
Well, a deviation from English language. He's not pronouncing his words. Not pronouncing his words. You can't hear them. You can't hear the diction. You can't hear what he's saying.
If I wasn't already on drugs, by the end of tonight I would be.
Gyles, you have another point. You have a right-hand man, and you have 2 seconds to go, starting now.
A right-hand man...
Paul, challenge.
Well, there was hesitation
yes,
there.
Yes, it definitely was. Paul, a right-hand man, 1 second, starting now.
Reggie Cray!
Yes. So Paul was speaking as a whistle when Gyles got lots of points in the round. They're both equal. Only 1 point separates the two of them. God, it's been a most exhausting show, this one. Pauline, we'd like you to begin the next round. The complaints department. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
If you listen to my husband, he will tell you that the complaints department in our house is me. Now, I'd like to dispute that. The complaints department is, in fact, me on this show. A complaints department is a very useful department to have in any walk of life because everybody's got complaints, don't they? Nobody's happy with their lot anymore. They're complaining about, well, viruses, swine flu, the recession. I'd like to think as complaints departments go, you know,
Graham,
humans are very good at it.
Graham, your challenge.
There was a slight hesitation. There was a whisper of a hesitation. I think I was listening very carefully, and I think I heard a hesitation.
It was a hesitation.
That you should be the one to do it to me, Graham.
Yes.
You know?
I've lived here a long time.
Me too, but I'm playing the paddy card here now, and you're not letting me
So, Graham,
off.
you've got a correct challenge. Take over the subject, the complaints department. 28 seconds, starting now.
You come home from work, and you work in a complaints... Oh, I said work twice already. How awful.
correct challenge, Paul. The complaints department, and 25 seconds starting now.
It was on the deck of the Titanic that they located the complaint department officer.
And Giles' challenge.
So was that your last act on this earth?
Well, there was a slight hesitation, and there was also, of course, no complaint department on the deck of the Titanic. I know because I built it.
So which
that was going to be the
want?
first complaint. But we didn't get there.
So we give you hesitation, Giles. 20 seconds. The complaints department starting now.
It's the complaints department here at the BBC that I wish to complain about.
Ball
Oh, BBC,
Yes.
of course, the old one.
Repetition of B.
Yes, indeed.
So Paul spotted it first. He's played the game a bit more often than others. 16 seconds with you, Paul. The complaints department starting now.
The British Broadcasting Corporation has a massive complaints department. It consists of 15 men and 14 women who answer every single complaint that comes in from the viewers at home as well.
Giles' challenge.
The British Broadcasting Corporation, the viewers, let's hear about the radio. Let's hear about the wires. Let's have some accuracy here. It is not a massive department.
Giles.
In a way, I mean, I sort of thought we were kind of paying tribute to the medium.
All right, get on with it.
Paul, there's 1 second left. The complaints department starting now.
Radio!
So, Paul, you were saving your last flourish for the end and got the big round of applause. Let me give you the final situation. Pauline McGlynn, who's only played the game about twice before, came back and did extraordinarily well, but did finish in 4th place. But it was a very brilliant 4th place. And Graham Norton, who was in 3rd place, gained a lot of points, but his contribution was so delightful. Giles, who has never stopped throughout the whole... He did finish, actually, in the end, in 2nd place. He was 4 points behind Paul Merton. So we say this week, Paul, you are our winner. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Gyles Brandeth, Pauline McGlynn and Graham Norton. I thank Sarah Sharp, who's helped me with the score and blown her whistle so elegantly. We are grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre who cheered us on our way. So from our audience and from me, Nicholas Parsons, thank you, and of course from the panel. And tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute! Yes.